OJ Simpson kills those two people so hard, they stop making the Ford Bronco.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. It is me, Legal Vices, and you are here on the YouTube channel, Legal Vices. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are we all doing? Where are we from? And what are we doing at this particular time of day, wherever you happen to be living? It's good to see you here. We've got our mods in place. Our trusty old mods are here. We got Rose, we got Alan. Who else we got? That's the looks like those are the mods we've got going so far. Chat, we've got a few people in chat here. We're just waiting for some more people to drop on in. We've got 33 people here, 21 likes. That's a good ratio, but why don't we have 33 likes for fuck's sake? Come on. Oops. I shouldn't curse so early in the stream, but I have an excuse. Today's the day you don't want to miss. Today is one of the seminal moments of the OJ Simpson trial. This is one of the highlights of the trial. Today, we're going to come right out of the gate with the putting on the glove, the bloody glove from the OJ Simpson house. Not a bloody glove, the bloody glove. The one that leads in closing arguments for Johnny Cochran to coin the famous line, "If it does not fit, you must acquit." That line. That's what we're going to see today. We're going to see that glove not fit. We're going to see some great stuff here in court. We're going to start off with OJ Simpson putting on that glove. Then we're going to watch a bit of courtroom drama. Again, Mark Furman has been off the stand here for a couple of weeks, our time, a day, their time. And then we have a little jump ahead here to where we have the prosecution essentially being forced to have OJ Simpson try on the glove. And we all know what goes wrong with that, but we'll talk a little bit more about that in depth. And then after that, although, as I've just said, Mark Furman has not been on the stand for a while, our time, and one day in their time, a little more than a day, I guess, shortly more than, it's been a while. But the prosecution wants Judge Ito to recuse himself because we've talked a lot about these tapes, these Mark Furman tapes from the screenwriter and the Catherine Bell episode. These times he's allegedly used the word, but from these, we're going to get into some of the tapes that he allegedly, wait, we don't have to say allegedly anymore. It's been 27 years. The tapes that he recorded with a screenwriter where he repeatedly drops F-bombs. We'll get into the tapes probably next week. But it turns out, as we'll see here today, Judge Ito's wife, who was a police captain at the time, is mentioned in the Mark Furman tapes. So because of that, the prosecution is seeking to have Judge Ito recuse himself from the trial. They want Judge Ito out. We'll talk about why and how they go about trying to do that as we go along today. So that's where we stand. And as long as we're here, sorry for the lack of announcement. It's just been an incredibly busy day. It's been crazy all day from start to finish. Right after work, I had to go out to a year-end party for an organization I'm involved in. And they just wrapped up. I ran home. I threw up this announcement. So that's why we didn't have much of a heads up for this stream, but it's Thursday. You should know I'd be here. So we're glad that you're here. Anyway, even though we didn't get much of an advance notice, just wait for a few more people to roll in and then we'll kick it off. Wow. So, well, we've got a few things. So I guess in the meantime, we can talk about what happened with the Juan David Ortiz trial. If you're interested in that and you didn't see it, very suddenly at the end of the testimony on, see what day is it? Thursday morning here. So it'll be Friday night there. So Thursday, at the end of testimony on Thursday, the prosecution rested Then the defense rested. Then the judge read was it Wednesday? I don't know. I can't remember. I've had a lot of wine. But the prosecution suddenly rested. The defense rested immediately after that without calling any witnesses. They shut their case down. And then the judge read the instructions, turned it over to the jury, and the jury deliberated for a very long time. And eventually, they came back with a guilty of capital murder, first-degree murder on all 4 charges. So the Texas Border Patrol officer who deleted 4 women of negotiable affections with his service revolver, I said revolver again, with his service weapon, loaded with his service rounds, didn't clean up his empty brass casings, didn't really hide the bodies, confessed to the police, led them to one of the bodies, but still pleaded not guilty, was found guilty. And that was a very, very quick judgment. The judge didn't screw around. The jury didn't screw around. The bailiff didn't screw around. It was literally one sentence that went something along the lines of, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of capital murder on all 4 charges. Then the court stepped in and said, well, in that case, the only sentence that I am allowed to hand down is life in prison without the possibility of parole. The end. Then there was some statements by the family, which we may review some of them tomorrow. There was some powerful witness statements from the families of the Pronzies that were murdered by this guy. So that's what happened in that case. And then we also have the Aaron Dean case that was also going on in Texas. It was a murder trial for a policeman who shot Tatiana, I can't remember what her last name is off the top of my head, but through a window of her house without any warning, without notifying her that the police were there, without saying gun, without even giving her a chance to put down her weapon. It was like, drop your gun, boom, done. Or put your hands up, boom. She didn't have time to react, didn't have time to do anything. Andrew Branca of the Law of Self-Defense has been handling that trial. He's been watching that trial. And I was going to join him after I did this. But again, unexpectedly, the prosecution rested in that case yesterday. Nobody saw that coming. And I just about a minute and a half ago got a text message from Andrew Branca saying that he won't be handling the trial tomorrow because the state rested abruptly, and the judge gave the defense the rest of the week to prepare to go on Monday. So there'll be no hearing in the Andrew Dean case on Thursday or Friday, and apparently it'll resume again on Monday. So after OJ Simpson, I'm going to sleep a long time for the first time in a long time. So that's where we are. And tomorrow will be Friday here. We'll just have a good old fashioned law rant Friday. Hopefully we can get a guest or 2 on, but we'll talk about, we might talk about the Twitter, the extended Twitter dump. That's hopefully something will have happened by then, but we had the additional few tweets from the journalist. We'll be talking about the Ortiz trial. We'll be watching some of the family statements. We'll be catching up on the Idaho murders. And then on Friday night U.S. time, Saturday morning Asia time, we will be hopefully doing an unexplained episode with Fair and Balanced and her sister Hannah on Hannah's channel. So that should be fun. And that'll get us to the weekend. Next Monday is Maritime Monday. And there's some interesting news in relation to the Maritime Monday deals. If those of you who have followed Maritime Monday and know about it, you know we've occasionally done some video reviews of videos prepared by the channel Brick and Mortar. I've been trying to get in touch with him for several months, and I finally got in touch with him by email. So my goal is sometime probably after the first of the year, get him on the channel here to talk about his maritime documentaries, why he makes these videos, the process he goes through of researching, producing, and uploading these videos. And then hopefully we'll be able to sit back and watch and deep dive one of his videos together with him. So I'm really, really happy and really, really excited to be in touch with Brick and Mortar to talk about his channel. So that'll be fun if we can get him on. We're in talks. It's looking like our schedules aren't going to work out till after the first of the year, but stay tuned. All right, without further ado, mods, again, welcome. Thank you for doing your thing here. Thank you for being the moddiest mods that have ever modded. And chat, you are the greatest chat on the internet. The Vice Squad rocks and rules. We dropped off with our likes. Come on, guys. We got 140 people here. A small-ish number, but typically the OJ Simpson trial is our least watched stream of the week. But I like it, so I'm going to keep doing it. Ordinarily, I should pull the trigger and do something else we want to see. But you're here. You guys are religiously viewing the OJ Simpson thing. So I'm gonna stick it out as long as I want. It'll just be kind of a chill week. We got 141 current viewers and only 74 likes. We're just below, we're like one like below the 50% mark, but we should be up at 150 likes very easily. Just hit that like button and subscribe if you're so inclined. We picked up quite a few subscribers yesterday doing the trial of Juan David Ortiz. We've got 32,515. We're marching slowly to 33,000. We'll get there eventually. And I guess it's time. We've talked about everything we need to talk about. Hit the like, smash that subscribe, sign up for the notifications. And for those of you here in the chat, we'll do what we can. But if you want a guaranteed response, if you want to support the channel in some way, if you have a question that you absolutely just need to have answered, then the super chats are the way to go, because all super chats are guaranteed to be read. We'll do our best to read the other ones. So if you want to start out with the super chats, super chat me. We'll read all of those. If not, we'll do it the best we can. And let's pull up the OJ cam. There we go. Embiggen it. Now, here we go. This. Oh, yeah. Oh. Michael Milano. Did you do that on purpose? In the words of, yes, you did. You said late. Okay. In the words of the late, great Judge Mills Lane, we have to do it in the Judge Mills Lane voice.
Let's get it on.
Judge Mills Lane, who he was a great judge, perhaps the greatest boxing announcer ever to live. And one of my law school classmates actually clerked for him when he was a judge there in Nevada. So yeah, Judge Mills Lane, who was the referee in the infamous Mike Tyson gnawing off Evander Holyfield's ear, and that was the case. He was one of the greatest boxing judges ever. Rest in peace, Judge Mills Lane.
Yeah, he kind of talked like this. He's kind of a weird little guy, little bald guy.
And he took over the People's Court from Judge Wapner, and it was Judge Mills Lane. Anywho, here we go. What happened? Kaiser Pineapple says, I do like porters and definitely see how this could be good. I don't know what you're talking about, but hey. All right. Now, they didn't just try on this glove for no reason at all. They didn't just say, oh, let's have him try on the glove. I'll tell you why I think they had him try on the glove. Was because, one, Mark Furman totally screwed their case. Totally screwed their case. I mean, he wrecked their case by coming out as being a racist. They know he was racist. F. Lee Bailey crushed him. Just absolutely crushed him. And then you had all of this. I mean, there's no way to describe it other than an absolute ass whooping that the F. Lee Bailey dropped on Mark Furman, which Mark Furman was supposed to be the prosecution's star witness because he found the blood on the Bronco. He found the glove behind the house. But F. Lee Bailey brought that into where it called him into question, whether he was a racist, whether he planted evidence, and he came off looking really, really bad on the stand. So that was in, I'm trying to think, it was March 1995 when F. Lee Bailey just manhandled Mark Furman. And then we fast forward through a bit and we get into June. It was June 15th. June 15th was the day the prosecution told OJ to try on the gloves. I think they were basically forced to have him try on the gloves and prove they fit because the guy who found the gloves, the guy who found the blood, the guy who was involved in so many of these important discoveries had been proven by the defense to be a racist and possibly someone who planted evidence. So I think they were pushed into a corner, and essentially the defense team, the OJ Simpson defense team, forced the prosecution to have them tell OJ Simpson to put the gloves on. If they had not done that, I think they would have lost the case. But having them put the gloves on, maybe would possibly give them a chance. But they made a few very, very, very fatal mistakes. First, they could have had him try on those gloves at any point before this happened. During depositions, during grand jury hearings, whatever. They had chances, they didn't do it. Two, they forgot or just didn't pay attention to, or God forbid, didn't know that if you soak leather and it dries, it shrinks. If any of you have had leather gloves or leather pants or whatnot, they get wet, and when they dry, they shrink. So you would have had this effect from when the blood dries, it would shrink the gloves. And two, or I guess it's number three. Number three is, rumor has it, and it makes sense to me that OJ Simpson, although he was a professional athlete, he was suffering, and I guess still is suffering, from severe arthritis. And the rumor has it that prior to these gloves being tried on, he stopped taking his arthritis medicine, which would swell his joints. It'd be painful as hell, but it would swell his joints and make it more difficult for those gloves to get on. And when he tries and that makes sense to me, because when he tries these gloves on, Rackets is covering for Branca. There's no hearing today. So I don't know what Rackets is doing, but this is Legal Vices, not Rackets channel. So you're here for this. But they're not having a trial, so I don't know what Rackets is doing. But anywho, if you watch OJ Simpson put these gloves on, if you watch him try these gloves on, you will see him wince kind of in pain a few times. I'm sorry, I swallowed some saliva incorrectly because that's how I roll. All right. Hey, morning, Flux. So yeah, when he puts these gloves on, watch, he kind of winces a few times, looks like he's in pain, which would support the idea that he stopped taking his arthritis medicine prior to trying these gloves on. And yeah, number four, exactly. Trial Junkie, one step ahead. Welcome, Trial Junkie. Great to have you here. Number four, they had him put on latex gloves, which are going to do two things. One, it's going to make his hands even bigger. And two, the exterior of the latex gloves is not frictionless. So it's going to make it harder to push the hands in. And so this literally, I for those of you that know, I was in my, it was summer. The summer vacation between my second year of law school and third year of law school had just started when this happened. And I saw this, and that moment I said, no question, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the prosecution will lose this case. And I was absolutely correct. They should never have done this. The old adage is that if you never ask a question you don't know the answer to, never have a witness fuck with evidence, never have a witness try on a glove that you do not have 100% beyond the shadow of a doubt certainty that it will fit. It was stupid. It was utterly ridiculous that they would have him try on that glove right there in open court without knowing in advance whether or not it fit. But they got pushed into that corner. Johnny Cochran pushed him into that corner, and Chris Darden and Marcia Clark had really no chance but to call him. But it was a stupid, stupid decision. And it went absolutely pear-shaped for them. And I talked before, and we watched some of the opening statements from Marcia Clark where she's talking about Jurassic Park and this newfangled DNA evidence. DNA evidence was still brand new back then. But we talked about how at one point the prosecution put on several weeks of DNA evidence. And we didn't have the same understanding of DNA then as we do now. So it was like talking, like spaceship stuff. It was talking alien technology to a lot of the jurors. And they were talking in scientific terms, in, chemical equations and numbers like trillions that the normal humans just don't have the concept of wrapping their minds around. And so the jury was bored, the jury was confused, and all it took was the defense to go up there and have OJ struggle to put on the gloves, and it completely unraveled the prosecution's case, which I think led them to the desperate attempt to have Judge Ito removed from the bench. A mistrial or switching it over to another judge or something was a Hail Mary attempt at saving their case. Once OJ Simpson couldn't put those gloves on and Mark Furman had screwed them over by being a racist and possible evidence planter, what option does the prosecution have left? They're screwed. Everything their star witnesses said has to be thrown out. The jury has just seen that the gloves found behind OJ Simpson's house, which may have been planted by the racist cop, didn't fit the defendant's hand. They threw the Hail Mary to get Judge Ito removed from the case. That's what we're going to focus on today. We got 2 super chats to go through here, then we'll jump in it. Baloney Bong says, grift harder. I haven't heard you grift for super chats yet. Hey, grifting for super chats. Hit that like button. We got 232 people here and only 105 likes. We're not even at 50% likes. So please smash that like button like OJ Simpson didn't smash Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown with the sharp edge of a stabby stick. Okay, I was reaching for that one. Anyway, hit that like button. Let's get us up to 200 likes that fast. Just do me the favor. Just do it so I don't have to keep talking about it. And we've got 1 new subscriber since we started. Thank you, whoever subscribed. But not as important as the likes, but nearly as important are the super chats. That's how you show support for the stream. Not required. I'll do my best to look at the chat and we'll answer as many questions as we can from the chat. But the super chats are your way of supporting me and guaranteeing that I read every question, respond to every question. You throw your hard-earned money at me, and that's the very least thing I can do is push you to the front of the line and make sure I read your comments. So super chat if you want. I'm here. I gladly accept it. And American Dreamer, thank you for the super chat. Some sleeping money. Thank you for the sleeping money. The lunch money was well used today, so thank you for that. And Flux, stabby stick, Mocha Dick, stabby stick. Thank you, Flux. Great to have you here. Mod Flux in the house. All right, here we go. Hit the like button. We're up to 128 likes. We're still barely over 50%. Shame on you. Shame on you. Half of you hadn't done your job. Hit that like button. Smash the subscribe button. And super chat if you want. We'll read the super chats. Now, let's get on with the if it does not fit, you must acquit. This lays the groundwork for that. And Chris Darden and the prosecution in 3, 2, 1. Mocha Dick.
Before the jury returns, however, we'd like to have Mr. Simpson try on the original evidence items.
See, smart here. Before the jury comes in, we want him to try it on. The defense says, oh, F that. If you're going to do this, you're going to do it in open court, buddy. The chance for a freebie, the chance for a gimme is well past. We are in the trial now. You want him to try it on? Put the fucking jury in the seats and get them watching this, because we're not trying this on without the jury present. And Marv White for the mods. Mods. You guys rock. Marv, you rock. Chris Darden, you don't rock. They're like, what? This glove?
The only problem is that I would want you to have gloves on under it. Try to go on without.
Johnny Cochran just warned them. This is a man. He just said the problem with what they want, he's got to wear latex on it, and it ain't going to work if he's wearing latex. Johnny Cochran warned them. They did not heed Johnny Cochran's warning, and the shit hit the fan.
Mr. Cochran, any comment?
Well, the only problem is that I would want you to have gloves on under it. Try to go on without. Rubber gloves are used, latex gloves are used. And I like the approach I have when I like to go.
Sure. All right, don't go away, Ms. Rubin.
Now they're going to go talk apparently about, I don't think it needs to be. Yeah, we can boost the volume of the video. We can boost the volume of the video, but we don't really need to. He was just not speaking with a microphone. They all do pretty good after that. Marv White asks, what was the singer for the Sailor songs? Stan Rogers is the guy we were talking about yesterday. Stan Rogers. You couldn't hear Johnny because he wasn't talking into the microphone. But here they are, like I said, apparently talking about, I don't think he's going to try this on without the jury present. They want to do it. They're going to do it on the record. We're not going to give him the freebie. Oh, just smiling. He knows he won something. Hey, Mary Wright. No worries. Nobody's talking here now. Wait, I'm lost. The prosecution had him try on the glove. Yes. And again, the reason I think they had him try them on was because their star witness turned out to be a racist who may have planted evidence. And to save their case, they had to prove that no, these rare gloves. I can't remember what brand they were. The Bruno Magli was that what they were? Anywho, these rare, expensive gloves were OJ's. So regardless of whether they were planted, they were his. That's kind of what they were trying to save themselves. And Johnny Cochran kind of egged them into it, and they fell for it. They tried it on and got their asses handed to them. Let's see. Just getting a message here from Nick. After my post yesterday, Branca informed me the state rested and the defense is not ready yet, so the trial has been continued to Monday or something. So there will not be a stream today. I may find something else to stream about.
All right, let's have the jurors, please.
But I have some stuff to take care of at home, so we'll see. All right, we'll see. All right, they're calling the jury in. The jury cometh. Oh, great. Why do the dogs always find plastic bottles as soon as I start this thing here? Excuse me while I go remove the plastic bottle from Strawberry's face. Right?
Ladies and gentlemen, record to reflect, we've been rejoined by all the members of our jury panel. Mr. Darden, do you have any further questions, Mr. Rubin?
Just a few, Your Honor. Mr. Rubin, you said that 8% of the gloves sold.
Yeah. So it was strawberry. Yoda sits and like lays his head on my feet and keeps my feet warm while I do this. Strawberry just kind of screws around and makes noise and begs for attention. Yeah, so the guy on the stand is I guess he's like the CEO or somebody from the glove manufacturer who's talking about how many people actually own these particular gloves that OJ Simpson owned.
Mr. Darden, do you have any further questions, Mr. Rubin?
Just a few, Your Honor. Mr. Rubin, you said that 8% of the gloves sold of the extra large brown in color Aris leather lights would be
8% of the actual brown. Out of the 12 pair per pre-pack, one pair would be extra large.
okay. So how many in 1990 then brown extra larges were sold?
300 totally available, possibly sold 200 to 240, depending upon conditions.
Okay.
So they're saying that only 200 to 240 people on planet Earth have these gloves that OJ had. Good numbers, but always keep in mind, if it does not fit, you must acquit.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, the people would ask that Mr. Simpson step forward and try on the glove recovered at Bundy as well as the glove recovered at Rockingham.
Okay, so that little powwow they had, the defense won. They don't get to have OJ try on the gloves without the jury present. The jury's got to be there, and then they say, we want him to try on both gloves. The one that was found at the murder scene and the one that was found by the racist, possibly evidence planting detective, Mark Furman, behind OJ's guest house.
All right, do you want to do that?
Begin the theater. Now watch OJ's face. Like I said, the rumor has it that he stopped taking his arthritis medicine, which would swell his joints and make it even more difficult for the glove to go on. Watch his face when he's doing this. There's a couple of things going on. One thing that's going on is occasionally he'll be like wincing from pain, which would make sense, as I said, if he stopped taking his medicine. And two, he's kind of trying to put him on with his finger spread. He's doing all these weird things with his fingers to make it difficult for it to go on. He's trying not to get those gloves to fit. And that's the thing. If you don't want a pair of gloves to fit, you can always do some shit to make them not fit. And he did pretty much everything he could do to make them not fit. But watch his face. Watch his facial expressions when he does this.
All right, you can do that seated there. All right. And I think so the jury can see. I'll ask Mr. Simpson to stand. All right. Mr.
See, did you see that? Like he does these little wincy things with his face.
I'll ask Mr. Simpson to stand.
You watch him kind of do this wince.
All right.
Oops.
Mr. Darden, which glove do you have?
So, I mean, his hands are moving really slowly. He's trying to get the gloves on. He's kind of wincing. So it would make sense that his joints would be extra swollen from not taking medicine.
This is the Bundy glove, Your Honor.
All right.
And after Mr. Simpson tries on the gloves, I would ask that he be required to step back over to the jury and again show him his bare hands.
This is so stupid. Again, get in the jury's face and make sure they really, really clearly see these gloves. Dumb tactical move.
All right, the record should reflect that, as is our practice with these gloves, Mr. Simpson will have a pair of latex gloves on while doing this.
I'm handing Mr. Simpson
That glove right here.
That's people 77.
This is the glove from the murder site. Here he is showing it doesn't fit. And watch his face. Watch the theatrics of his face. That doesn't fit. Watch his expressions here. And again, he's allegedly got swollen joints from not taking arthritis medicine. He's wearing latex gloves that that have a good deal of friction with them. And quite frankly, he just doesn't want those gloves to fit. Plus, they're shrunken from being wet and then subsequently dried. Stupid for Darden to do this. See, it doesn't fit. Look, I'm pulling. It's weird. Haha, let's laugh. Ruh-roh.
You having a problem placing the glove on his hand?
Yeah, and here we go. Here, Chris Darden, thinking he's being all smart alecky, actually hurts himself. He's like, "Oh yeah, looks like he's having a little bit of difficulty putting the glove on." When all that's going to do is make the jury go, "Oh yeah, wow, he is having problem." When he was making a snarky comment, clearly the jury just read that as, "Oh yeah, I guess he is having problems."
Right.
Listen to Darden's snark go wrong. Oh, Cornpipe says Cochran baited them. Oh yeah, Cochran absolutely baited him into it, and they fell for it. I mean, see, you can see right here, he's smiling. He knows this glove is not going on. That's the smile of a man who's like, "Look at this, fuck you, prosecution." But listen to Darden be snarky, and it backfiring.
You having a problem placing the glove on his hand?
Sustained.
And not only did that snarky comment backfire, Johnny Cochran objected to it, and the objection was sustained. Look, it don't fit. You must have quit. Look, I'm pulling it on. I'm trying really hard. It just won't go on. I'm wiggling my fingers. Look, smile. Oh, and see, he's wincing there a little bit. So, I think he's in pain from not having the arthritis medicine. Yeah, see, look, bitch, it don't fit. Look, motherfucker, it doesn't fit. I tried this on. It doesn't fit. You want to try to put it on? Try to put it on, dumbass. Yeah, see, it don't fit, dumbass. All right, let me try on the other one.
This is People's 164A. Is that the right-hand glove?
Well, Mod says it looks like it fits. Well, let's look at this again. This is a glove where this is. That's the middle of his palm, basically. That's right at the base of the palm, right here. It's not going any further than this. The bottom part here should be down on the wrist here, not a quarter of the way up his palm. See, that line there should be right where this white glove is. That's where the end of the latex glove is where this should be.
This is People's 164A. Is that the right-hand glove?
Yes, sir.
All right.
See, and he's wincing there. He's got the OJ wince, putting on the glove that was found at his house. I genuinely believe he's in pain here. $305 likes, 306 concurrent viewers, and 164 likes. Smash that like button. You better smash that like button before OJ gets those gloves on. Don't make him kill you. Pulling it on, feeling painful. It's a little tight. Ow, ow, oh. Won't go on my palms. I'll try to do it. Oh, look, my fingers don't even fit in there. My big meaty fingers don't fit into the gloves.
All right, Deputy Jex, would you just take a step back, please? Thank you.
Now Darden wants him to flex in front of the jury and do dumb shit to emphasize the fact that these gloves do not fit him. See, look, I tried. They don't go on. I tried to get them on, but don't mind me. I'm just an arthritic actor. I would have no idea how to fake putting on gloves. Yeah, that's one of the major flaws that the prosecution effed up on. They forgot to mention this thing, but they forgot to take into account this thing had been soaked in blood and had been sitting there for more than a year. Anybody that has leather gloves, go out, soak them in water, and then throw them in a corner and wait for them to dry, and then try to put them on.
All right, records reflect that Mr. Simpson has both gloves. Yes.
He's like, see, I got them on. See, they don't fit.
All right.
They want him to put his fingers. He's like, my fingers are all the way in. It's just the rest of the gloves that don't fit.
Thank you, counsel.
Now they want him. They're like, no. We want him to flex. Put those back on and flex in front of the jury. They want to flex his fingers in front of the jury, so we've got to put them back on.
Can we ask him to replace the left glove onto his hand?
All right.
See, now it even fits worse than it did the first time he tried to put it on.
Extend them into the
Yeah. Straighten your fingers and extend them. They're having Christopher Darden is making him go through these exercises where the only thing that's going to do is show the jury, is going to emphasize more to the jury that the glove doesn't fit.
I object to this statement by counsel.
Yeah.
Can we ask him to straighten his fingers and extend them into the glove as one normally might put a glove on?
I object to this statement by counsel.
All right, he appears to have pulled the gloves on, counsel.
Yeah, there it is. Because that was the objection from Darden. We want you to instruct him to tell him to put the gloves on like a normal person would. And Johnny Cochran's like, come on.
All right, we show that to the jury, Mr. Simpson, in that manner. Thank you. Other hand, please.
Can we ask him to make a fist with his left hand with gloves on? Can we ask him to make a fist with his right hand with gloves on?
He is doing both.
Can we ask him to grasp an object in his hand?
All right, Mr. Simpson.
Can we ask him to grasp the marker in his hand like this?
I object to this, Your Honor.
Yes.
This is called a stabbing motion! Stabbing motion! Stabbing motion!
Object.
I agree.
Counsel, go ahead.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, shit.
All right. Thank you, counsel.
Wait, I have a question. How long was that muted? I coughed. I coughed. Wow. Huh. Guess I better scroll back and see how long that was muted for, just out of curiosity. Only a minute. That was good. I don't know what the last thing you heard was, because I got suddenly started coughing and I thought I clicked the unmute, but apparently I didn't. Yeah, they want him to hold it, and then they want him to grab it with like a stabbing motion. Like, please have him hold it like this. And Cochran's like, oh, come on. They want him to hold it like he has a knife and he's stabbing people with it. That's what they want. And they objected, and that's That's where we were going, and I just played the stabbing motion video because it fit into what I was saying, but you didn't hear what I was saying, so you had the stabby motion thing out of context. So sorry about that.
I agree.
Council,
Yes. Yes.
So
All
they
right.
want him to hold it like a knife. It's a shit show. While we're paused here, Mary writes, his legal advice is off topic, but who's the Russian Victor Bout? The U.S. just traded him for Brittany Griner. She's in U.S. custody now. I'm going to rant about that tomorrow. That is some bullshit right there. That is just some hands down, no holds barred bullshittery. She fucked up. She violated the laws of a country where she was. I know a bunch of foreigners that are here in Korean jails for doing the same shit. I've known professional athletes that have had some of the oils brought in for therapeutic reasons, and they got nailed here, and they got booted out of the country, and there's other people that bring in small quantities of supplements and whatnot for their own use. They're going to jail here for a period of time. Is the U.S. government bailing them out and saying it's a sham trial? No, the government says, oh, you little fuckers come to another country like Korea. You know the laws. This isn't America. You have to abide by the Korean laws. And so you go do whatever time the judge serves you for being an idiot and bringing that banned shit here into the country. Do they do that with Griner? No, they don't. What's the difference? Nothing. Just Russia are the baddies these days. So anything Russia does is bad. Russia has sovereignty. Screw that. You're trading some stupid basketball player who knowingly tried to get away with breaking the laws. She knew the laws of Russia. She'd played there for, I think, 4 years before this happened. She knew what she was doing was illegal. There's no way she couldn't have known. But yet now Russia gets back a fucking arms dealer in exchange for some stupid basketball player woman who sucks so bad she can't even play in the goddamn WNBA. That is some bullshit, and we'll get into that tomorrow. But for now, I'll stop ranting about that. Apostle Steve says muted. I hope I wasn't muted for that. Oh, this Griner thing really grinders my gears. Flux, we came here for the boomer. You got the boomer. Now you got the pissed off boomer. Damn Griner and her bullshittery. I hate that. Ugh. Alrighty. Deep breaths. Deep breaths. We'll talk more about that bullshittery tomorrow. That just grinds my damn gears. Yeah, that's the CBD girl who was playing basketball in Russia. I've seen people get shafted here in Korea for the same damn thing. Did the government do some big exchange program? Did the government try to bail them out? No, the U.S. government says, well, sorry, you knew better than that. We can just make sure you're not treated worse than a Korean citizen in that same situation. Bullshit. All right. Don't want to get too far off grid here because I can rant about that for an extended period of time. Givener says, put this towards assigning person for when you mute yourself. I need to get my own sign language assistant for when I mute myself. All right. Whew, don't want to stroke out there. Sorry. That upset me. I hate this damn story from square one. I hate that Griner story. Yeah, it was just CBD oil, but it's illegal in Russia. It doesn't matter. It's just anything. It's against the law there. CBD oil is illegal in Korea. It doesn't matter if you think that's a fucked up law. It's the law. Deal with it. I get this shit all the time from like fucking people. Canadians are weirdly the supreme at doing this. Well, this isn't in Canada. This isn't even a crime. Well, guess where the fuck you're not? You're not in Canada. You're here. It is a crime. Don't do it. You know, all right, I said I wasn't going to rant. So, all right, let's go back to let's go back to OJ before I stroke out here. Stupid Griner. It doesn't matter. THC, CBD, all of this shit, weed, I mean, anything is illegal there, illegal here. Don't do it. And don't expect the government to bail your dumb ass out. And for an international Russian arms dealer. Come on. Rant. All right. Sorry for that. Sorry for that interruption. Damn it. Let's go.
Thank you, Counsel.
Go back a bit.
Yes. Yes. All right. Thank you, Counsel.
Thank you. You're welcome, Flux.
No longer an issue of cross-contamination, Your Honor. I have nothing further.
All right.
So they're shafted here. They tried to get the gloves on. They tried to have the gloves on, but it didn't work. They blew it. They absolutely blew it. And what happened, like, was it 2 weeks after this? They had this shit show go on. Their star witness turns out to be a racist who possibly planted evidence. Then they have him try on the evidence that the racist, perhaps evidence planter, found. Turns out it doesn't fit for one reason or another. And then 2 weeks later, the prosecution rests their case. That was literally one of the last things they did before they rested their case. Where do you go from this fuck up? And look at them. They're all happy as shit that didn't fit.
Coach, 1 moment before we go on.
So yeah, take these gloves off. Fuck them. Boom, slam dunk. He's like, yeah, bitches. Didn't fit, bitch. What do you think of that, bitch? It didn't fit. You must have quit, bitch. That's all he's saying. Look at that, smiling at the jury going, you saw that didn't fit. That was the stupidest thing. The stupidest thing that they could have done. Dumbasses. All right. Wait. Hey, embiggen. He's just smiling. Yeah. Didn't fit. What do you want me to do? I tried it on. You saw it. I had my hand. Shit, didn't fit. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do about it? All these gesticulations he's doing in front of the jury. It's not like he's an actor or anything, right? This was an absolute strategic nightmare for the prosecution. He just gets to sit there and go, look at that. He's looking at him going, didn't fit, motherfuckers. Didn't fucking fit, bitch. Suck it. And what's the jury going to do? Go, well, that was dumb. It didn't fit. Oh, Johnny Cochran seems to think so. It did not fit. Therefore, you must acquit. You just missed the glove a few minutes ago, Casey Harriman. That's they're basking in the glow of the gloves not fitting. And Darden's like, fuck.
Darden, would you wrap it up, please?
Your Honor,
and how is that? How is that for the judge? It's like, all right, Darden, you had your damn day. You had your damn shot at it. You swung for the fence. You fucked up. Now, would you wrap it up, please? Would you put this shit show aside and move on because you done blew it, bruh? And now it's like, okay, now this guy is he's the, I believe he's the president or CEO of the gloves. Were they Bruno Magno gloves? I believe they were. He's checking the size. He's going to continue his testimony about whether the gloves fit or not. But we saw they didn't fit. So it's like, they don't fit. Okay, we need him back on the stand so he can give us some numbers. We need numbers because numbers are important. A KDP member for 2 months of the Clean and Sober crew says, this Canadian agrees with you, Jeff. Check the laws before you go, or if you're not sure, just don't bring it, especially with that stuff. Yeah, exactly. I mean, the stories I could, and it's weirdly Canadians. I don't know what it is, but here in Korea, I think there's like some stoner Canadian dude who's sending pamphlets or instruction manuals back to his fellow countrymen about how to get caught trying to bring things into Korea because it never works. Anywho, on that note, 354 concurrent viewers and 210 likes as we approach the 1 hour mark. Smash that like button. Get us up to 300 likes. There's no reason we shouldn't be at 300 likes. We're not going to get 1,000 people on these streams. We never get close to that, but we can get a lot of likes. So hit those likes and watch the guy try to size OJ Simpson's gloves by doing this weird ET touching thing. Oh.
All right, records reflect that Mr. Rubin has examined both Mr. Simpson's left and right hands. Mr. Darden.
Mr. Rubin, you sold thousands and thousands of leather gloves throughout the world, correct?
That's correct.
What size glove would you say would fit Mr. Simpson's hand?
Over. You can answer that.
In some styles, size large, in most styles, extra large.
Should the gloves shown to you here in court today have fit Mr. Simpson's hand, in your opinion?
Over. You can answer the question.
At one point in time, those gloves would be actually, I think, large on Mr. Simpson's hand.
And again, this was a stupid answer. It was correct, but it was a stupid answer from the expert. So again, this is where they're getting they were wet and they dried out and they shrunk. He should have just said, yes, they would have fit OJ. But his testimony was they would have been large for OJ before they shrunk. So not only are they too small after they've been wet and dried out, but even if they weren't dried out, they would have been too big for him. They would have been large. They would have been too large for him. That was stupid. The prosecution just should have had him say, yes, they would have fit. But now they don't fit before or after they dried.
So you expected then that these gloves would have fit his hand here today, is that correct?
Sustain.
And so, yeah, see, that's the thing. Now, Darden tries to get that answer from him. Would they have fit? No, they would have been too big. We didn't say no. He said they probably would have been too big. So he wants to get that yes or no. Would they have fit? So he asks it again. And then Cochran steps in and says, well, that's just speculation whether they would have fit or not, which is correct. So Darden blew it with that question and answer.
Well, the question is this. Would Mr. Simpson's hand fit into these gloves as they are today, in your opinion?
Sustain.
Should they be able to fit in?
This is the Elaine part where the objections get sustained fast and heavy. Cornpate says, why do they not just get a new pair of those gloves? Because he didn't kill anyone with the new gloves. You've got to use the murder weapon. The murder gloves, we'll call them. The murder gloves are the ones that they're figuring that, does the murder gloves fit or not? Not does a completely separate pair of gloves fit. That's the problem with going down this road. The Courtney Clenny hearing, the bond hearing, I think is supposed to be sometime in the afternoon, Florida time. I'm not sure exactly what the time is, but we'll rant about that tomorrow night. We'll talk about the results and rant a bit about that tomorrow, along with Griner. But yep, Darden's getting laced here badly.
Into these gloves?
Sustain.
Should they be able to fit into these gloves?
His hand should be able to fit into that pair of gloves.
Okay. Now, would you expect that the fact that he's wearing latex gloves here today would that inhibit his ability to extend his hand through the gloves?
I personally have never put on latex gloves and tried on gloves, so I really couldn't say, but I would say that.
Don't
appears
ask
to be
a
factor,
question you don't know the answer to.
Because when he showed,
That's fine.
okay,
Can you give the jury any explanation as to why Mr. Simpson couldn't fit his hand into the glove here today?
Sustain.
Why would I tell Rick Hayden to grift Clenny? I'm fucking grifting Clenny. Why would I tell him to do it?
The manner in which Mr. Simpson put the gloves on today?
yes, I did.
Okay, you've seen people put gloves on in the past.
Yes, I have.
Did he put the gloves on in a manner consistent with what you've seen other people?
Sustain. The jury observed what happened.
Yeah, he's like, did he put the gloves on in a weird way? And Cochran's just saying, well, I object. That's for the jury to decide whether he put them on in a weird way or not. The jury watched him put it on. The jury can decide how he put it on. The expert doesn't need to testify how he put the gloves on.
Anything unusual about the way Mr. Simpson put the gloves on based on your experience?
Sustain.
No, they didn't have him try him on
Tell
before
whether
this
or
moment.
not he was intentionally holding his thumb in a certain position so he couldn't put the gloves on.
Sustain. Sustain. Counsel, the
I have
jury
nothing further,
observed.
Your Honor. I have nothing further.
He shut him down. Darden had nowhere else to go with that. Every question he was asked, did he do this incorrectly? Did he do it wrong? Should he have done it differently? Should this have happened? He got shut down on every one of those questions. And the only answer for him at that point was, I got nothing further. I'm screwed. Let it go.
Tucker. Anything else? Certainly.
All right. That is the end of this particular event. This is the end of the event, but that's not the end of today's show, clearly and obviously. Now we're going into the courtroom drama. The courtroom drama where they're trying to get Judge Ito off the bench. I mean, where do you go from here? Your primary witness, the detective that found all of this shit. He's been eviscerated. His testimony is less than good. It is extraordinarily bad. It is damaging to your case and may have completely derailed the case. You have him try on these gloves. That doesn't fit. That doesn't work. You get your ass handed to you in court. Even the judge is telling you to wrap this BS up. You call the guy who's in charge of the company that made the gloves. He says, well, they may have been too big for him originally. I don't know how, and then they're not allowed to ask any questions about how they were put on, whether he manipulated it, because that's for the jury to decide, and he shuts it down. So then we just have to fast forward a little bit. That was June 15th when that happened. Then we have to go ahead like 2 months into August, exactly 2 months to the day. The prosecution has rested. The defense is starting their case. OJ's daughter, she's one of the first witnesses. They talk to the neighbors that are walking by at that point, saying they haven't seen anything unusual. They have OJ's doctor comes on. OJ's doctor comes on and says that he was slowed down by his injuries. He had the arthritis. But on cross-examination, the doctor got nailed and sort of kind of admitted he still probably could have killed the two guys. But the one thing that's very, very fascinating, which we won't get into because we got way too many other things to talk about, was the toxicologist. They brought a toxicologist on because there was virtually no blood of OJ's at the crime scene, even though they said he had cut his knuckle on something. There was one drop of blood they found on a back gate, one tiny drop. And a toxicologist came in and testified for the defense that in that one drop of blood they tested, there was evidence of a preservative fluid, which supports the defense theory that the evidence was planted, because they didn't see that glove. They didn't see that blood spatter originally on the back gate. They found that later. And there was evidence of blood preservative in that sample. And then when your case is that far intercoursed, really all you can do is ask for the judge to be recused from the case. How do you do that? How do you get the judge off the bench? How do you get a mistrial? How do you get another judge involved? How do you delay this? What do you do? The tapes, as I mentioned at the beginning of this, because they were going to have, at the very beginning of September, they were going to have Mark Furman come back and do more testimony. They were going to have Kathleen Bell, who heard him make these racist statements and dropping the N-bombs at the Marine recruiting station, testify. They're going to have the screenwriter who remade all of these tapes and all of these recordings of Furman dropping at least 41 N-bombs after saying he has never used that word in the last 10 years. He doesn't use that word. And anyone who says he has ever used that word in the last 10 years is by definition a liar. And then they bring the tapes in and they show them. At that point, I mean, the way they're going to try to get around that is to have the case shut down by saying that those tapes, when Mark Furman is talking about hating women, especially hating women police officers, he mentions Judge Ito's wife by name, who she was an LAPD police captain at that time. So they're saying, well, Mark Furman mentions your wife in these tapes. We might have to call your wife as a witness. And if we call your wife as a witness, because she now may be a witness, you have to recuse yourself from this case. And we need someone else to handle, or we need to do something. So there you go. That's what they're going to argue now. They're going to try to get Judge Ito thrown off this case in a desperation, Hail Mary move to save their asses. And let's all see how this plays out, because that's where we're going next. We watched about 10 minutes of this last week while we were screwing around. We're going to go back and take it from the beginning for the people that aren't here now. And as long as we're doing the mid-grift stream, 379 concurrent viewers, 250 likes, we should be up to 300 likes by now at least. Well, we should be up to 379 likes, but I'll take 300. Smash that like button, smash the subscribe button, because that's what we do here. We smash. We're the Smash It crew. And if you want to super chat, do that too. All right, moving right along. Share the screen. We fast forward a month or so from the trying the gloves on. The defense is in their case. They're presenting their case. And then the prosecution brings up this little bomb here. Noob 145, back up about 15 minutes or 10 minutes. But we'll also rant like a mother about this tomorrow. Let's get it on.
Mr. Simpson is again present before the court with his counsel, Mr. Shapiro, Mr. Cochran, Mr. Glazier, Mr. Scheck, Mr. Neufeld, people represented by Ms. Clark, and Mr. Darth. The jury is not present. Record should reflect that this morning the court held 2 in-chambers meetings with counsel, specifically with regard to an issue that has been raised by the so-called Furman tapes. And the record should reflect that although the tapes have been discussed with the court does not have a copy of the tapes, nor has the court reviewed the transcripts that are said to exist with regard to these tapes. Further, during the course of our discussions, counsel for both the prosecution and the defense have advised the court that their review of these tapes indicate that Mr. Furman apparently has made comments that are disparaging of this court's spouse, Captain Margaret York of the Los Angeles Police Department. It's further been indicated to the court that there is a possibility that the prosecution will call Captain York to testify as a witness in this matter in light of that development. with regard to the credibility of Mr. Furman. Code of Civil Procedure, Section 170.1, sub A, sub 1, states as follows: a judge shall be, which is mandatory, shall be disqualified if the judge has personal knowledge of disputed evidentiary facts concerning the proceeding. A judge shall be deemed to have personal knowledge within the meaning of this paragraph if the judge or the spouse of the judge is to the judge's knowledge likely to be a material witness in the proceeding. So at this point, what is necessary to determine is whether or not Captain York will be a material witness in this case, if her testimony would be relevant or material to any of the issues before the court. If that is true, then this court would be required to recuse itself from further participation in this case. All right, I'll hear from the parties.
All right, now we're gonna watch. We're gonna watch Johnny Cochran go to church here. Johnny Cochran, like I said, you want to trip people up, you want to trap people. You need F. Lee Bailey. You want people that can destroy a scientific analysis. You want someone who can tear apart procedure. You want someone who can slam methodology. You want Barry Scheck above anybody else on planet Earth. And in relation to that, Mike N. Nem says, did I miss your commentary / viewing of Barry Scheck going to work? I hope not. Barry Scheck, we're going to watch Barry Scheck go to work starting either 2 weeks or 3 weeks from now, depending how much we get through today and next week. But so in 2 or 3 weeks, Barry Scheck is going to go to work, working over criminologist Dennis Fung for 8.5 days. So we'll probably get like 3 months of Barry Scheck out of this. But yeah, no, you didn't miss it. So but if you want the personality, if you want the persuasion, if you want that character that can get in and change people's minds and impassion people and move them, you want Johnny Cochran. And Johnny Cochran takes this argument that Judge Ito should be recused to church and schools the judge.
Just when you thought we couldn't have anything crazier happen.
Yes, Your Honor. This has been a most unique case in many particulars.
So Johnny's going to take it. Johnny's going to take it to the outfield here. He's going to preach. He's going to preach the prosecution is full of shit.
Your Honor, the defense rises at this point to indicate to the court, we feel this is a tempest in a...
Okay, before we go, Mystified asks, why would he or his wife have knowledge of what was said on secret recordings of Mark Furman? Because they're not secret anymore. And that's what Johnny Cochran's going to say. Johnny Cochran's going to say, we found these tapes. The prosecution should have found these tapes and released them to us, but we had to do the prosecution's job. We found it. And so they're going to introduce next week. We'll be reviewing these tapes. These recordings, they weren't secret, just the prosecution never bothered to go find them, but the defense did. And now they're being brought to light. And in that are comments about how all women officers suck, how they're all horrible, and especially Judge Ito's wife. Coincidentally, it just happened to mention her by name.
Yes, Your Honor. This has been a most unique case in many particulars. However, Your Honor, the defense rises at this point to indicate to the court, we feel this is a tempest in a teapot. Let me make very clear the defense position about these tapes, and then our position, and Mr. Simpson's position, about what should happen as to whether this matter should be sent out at all. First of all, the court is aware that the defense is the one who pursued these tapes.
And when he says this case should be sent out, he means sent to another judge, sent out of this courtroom and into another courtroom.
First of all, the court is aware that the defense is the one who pursued these tapes, not the prosecution. And I think that's the first point, Your Honor. From a standpoint, this was their witness. They had an obligation to come and tell us about this witness who commits perjury and engages in 10 years of tapes over a period of time, where he's speaking in dialogue, and what he not only in dialogue, these are interviews with Mark Furman. We're the ones, with your help, who pursued these tapes. And to put them in perspective, what we suggest to the court is this is a ploy by the prosecution, because they don't want to proceed further. We will never agree to a mistrial in this case. This case should not be sent out. What we propose to do is to give you the tapes, which are the province of our work, submit the tapes to you with the portions regarding Captain York redacted. Those portions where Mark Furman, who doesn't seem to like anyone in those tapes, is disparaging, have nothing to do with this case. You have ruled back in January that we are entitled to impeach this man based upon his racial animus, based upon his proclivity or propensity to implicate innocent individuals, and then perhaps a third category of general credibility where he's just lied about certain things. For instance, the fact of whether or not he was going to sue Robert Shapiro. Now, we've heard all of these tapes. So I want to make the record very clear. This man is an important part of the prosecution's case. As I indicated to the court, in these tapes, Mark Furman indicates, I am the key witness in the trial of the century. If I go down, the prosecution's case go down. It goes.
And see this, so this shows here, these aren't even old tapes. Even he's made tapes with this woman since the trial started, where he brags about being the centerpiece of the case because he's found these important pieces of evidence. Not a fame seeker at all, is he? Not the kind of person that would plant the evidence in order to brag about being the fucking centerpiece of the trial of the century. Take it to church, Johnny Cochran.
Tapes. Mark Furman indicates, I am the key witness in the trial of the century. If I go down, the prosecution's case go down. It goes down, and he says, bye-bye. And that's what they're faced with, bye-bye. They see their case floating out the window because this is a critical witness in their case. And Bailey did a good job of tying it together about whether he had lied. This man has committed perjury. There's no reason to dance around this. He has committed perjury, and that's the issue. Your wife has nothing to do with that at all. They cannot rehabilitate Mark Furman if he uses the N-word 30, 40 times. Margaret York never heard him say that word, presumably. They can't rehabilitate him on that. If he talks about destroying people's driver's licenses and then arresting them, he talks about choking out people because they're black, when he talks about how you stop a black man, and he uses the derogatory term, in a Porsche, and he gives tips for stopping individuals. When he talks about how you lie, how you back your partner up for 6 months, you lie up to 6 months, anything short of an indictment to implicate people. You just arrest them because they're black, and he doesn't use the word black. Margaret York has nothing to do with any of that. They've got to face up to this fact. This is their star witness. They vouch for him. We will prove he's a liar. They know he's a liar. They have an obligation. And it's so ironic, Your Honor, in this case, that Ms. Clark back in chambers last week would tell you, we're going to object to the tapes. We reminded her she hadn't heard the tapes. How is she going to object to the tapes before she heard them? Now we find out they're going to object to the tapes. It's like those socks. So that we're troubled by this in this so-called pursuit for justice and honesty. And so what we're proposing is that when the tapes are brought down here this afternoon for you, that the part regarding Margaret York be redacted. There's no reason to get into this side issue. Mr. Simpson is not going to stipulate to any mistrial. Jeopardy has attached in this case. We want to go forward. We want to finish this case as soon as possible. Ms. Clark now adds to the scenario in our latest visit in chambers by saying she can't tell what's going to be material, and some other judge, and you shouldn't tell, some other judge should make that determination. Well, as I told the judge in North Carolina, who knows better what's material in this case than you do? You've been here since September. We don't always agree with your rulings. I mean, that's pretty clear, and I think you accept that. But you know these facts. We rely upon you. Mr. Simpson relies upon you to be fair and give him a fair trial. This jury relies upon it. All of America relies upon this. Another judge who comes in here doesn't know anything about this case at this point, as I saw in the first court in North Carolina. We had to overturn him. So we're saying that you're in the best position. Your wife has nothing to do with this. With regard to Furman rises or falls based upon his own voice, Your Honor. He's the one talking from April of 1985 to July 28, 1994. He's the one using these derogatory names. He's the one who hates women and Mexicans and black people. He's the one who hates all of the commanders. And this case is about real people. He talks about Commander Hickman. He talks about Deputy Chief Frankel. He talks about
preach.
He's talking about his life as a police officer day by day.
Amen.
He talks about criminal conduct by himself and other police officers.
Criminal
this
conduct.
Is a blockbuster. This is a bombshell. This is perhaps the biggest thing
It's a bombshell
in this country in this decade. And they know it. They've got to face up to it. Your wife has
Amen.
nothing to do with that. That's a side minimal issue. And you should not be persuaded to send this case anywhere based upon that. Because we're not going to stipulate to any kind of a mistrial. We want to go forward. We want our day in court, and we feel most strongly about this. And this, the last thing I want to say is that this whole thing, Your Honor, needs to be unmasked for what it is. And on information and belief,
What
I
is it,
can tell
Johnny?
this court that every file in the LAPD relating to this man, Mark Furman, has been sealed or hidden. Cases that have been settled the last 6 months, the Britain case and everything, you can't find out about them because they sealed everything. Just in the last 2 weeks, a box of files on Mark Furman in Sacramento have been hidden and secreted away.
See, that's some bullshittery going on there. That is the police rallying around one of their own, one of the corrupt Los Angeles Police Departments, focusing and protecting one of their own corrupt police officers. Jenna asks, what is the issue at hand? What is the issue at hand here is that these tapes of Mark Furman hating on women, hating on Mexicans, hating on blacks, hating on everybody that isn't like a white Anglo-Saxon prostitute, Protestant, hating on everybody that isn't him. In doing that, he mentions Judge Ito's wife's name, she's a police captain. He especially hates women police officers in authority over him. And so now the prosecution, Marcia Clark and Chris Darden, are saying that because they mention your wife, we might have to bring your wife in here, Judge Ito, as a witness. And if she is a witness, you can no longer be the judge because you have a conflict of interest with one of the witnesses. So therefore, we have to get a mistrial or you have to turn this over to another judge. And Johnny Cochran is saying, bullshit. That is a bunch of lies. That is a situation that the prosecution has deliberately manufactured as a desperate means of trying to get this case overturned. I'm trying to get this case kicked out, trying to get it sent somewhere else. And yeah, Corbett, we watched how much of this? We watched 1 more minute of this last week, and the rest is new. We're doing this again because not everybody was here last week. So yeah, that's what they're arguing. So Johnny Cochran is calling them out loudly and proudly for their bullshit, their stupid attempts, their illegitimate attempts to save their ass. And also they want to bring in more cases. They want to bring in more evidence against Mark Furman. But apparently all of the cases mysteriously that he's ever worked on were sealed 2 weeks after Mark Furman testified. I guess it was like 2 months after Mark Furman testified and 2 weeks before this time, which was just after the prosecution started their case. So all of these files, all of these other cases Mark Furman has worked on are suddenly magically sealed and can't be looked at, can't be referred to, and can't be used. He's calling them out for their bullshit for this. And he is doing one hell of a good job.
Every file in the LAPD relating to this man, Mark Furman, has been sealed or hidden. Cases that have been settled the last 6 months, the Britain case and everything, you can't find out about them because they sealed everything. Just in the last 2 weeks, a box of files on Mark Furman in Sacramento have been hidden and secreted away. Now, these are the things of a police state, and it's wrong in America for this to be happening, to cover up for this man. Doesn't mean all police officers are bad, certainly doesn't. But when they close ranks and do this, for those people who don't believe that there's been a conspiracy of silence here, this is the ample proof. His voice will give you the proof of what he thinks a real police officer should be and how you stand up. And that's why he believes that women don't count. And so the things that have happened in this case are troubling to this community. And anybody who supports what he does doesn't deserve to be an officer of this court. And so what we're saying is that let's get it out there. Let's lay it out. This is a search for truth. We're not going to hide this anymore. This court should hear it. This jury should hear it. All of America should hear it. And when they do, they'll understand what the defense has been trying to say for all these many months. And so I ask you, with all the fervor of my being on behalf of my client, as we've asked you before, don't send this case. Don't stop these proceedings. You saw our jury. We promised these jurors, Judge, this case would be over in April. It's now August. We're trying to do our part. They took 6 months. We're going to take less than 6 weeks. We want to finish this case. We've only got a few witnesses left, including this thing on Mark Furman. I told you Ms. McKinney is in town. We're ready to call her as early as tomorrow. We're ready to proceed. Want to put the people on notice? We want Mark Furman brought back from Idaho. We'll give him notice right now. We want to finish this case with this jury. You saw them yesterday visibly upset with the cross-examination, and it's time to bring this matter to a halt, not engage in these shenanigans again of sending it out to some other judge who knows nothing about the case. He's going to listen to all these tapes after all this, these hours and hours of tapes. He or she won't know the facts. You know the facts. So isn't our decision or our proposal to redact the portion for Margaret York, isn't that the relevant portion? You've ruled many times against us on this 352 argument. Well, if ever there was a 352 argument of somebody being irrelevant, it's going to be Margaret York, because you can see, what does she have to do with anything? There's nothing to do with that. We're the proponent of the evidence. We're not going to bring her in. They're grabbing at straws when they say they may bring her. And I guarantee you that when this is all said and done, they're going to call your wife in here. They're not going to do it. This is just a ploy. We want to proceed with this trial and get it over with. And we ask you respectfully to do that, to listen to us. We think we're right on this. And this is a matter, I need hardly remind you, this matter has cost the county of Los Angeles some $6 million. And I think that Mr. Simpson hopefully can get a fair trial and get a verdict that reflects the evidence. And it's too late for them to turn back now. They should have thought about this in that rush to judgment back on June 13th, 1994. But now it's too late. Should have thought about this when they put Mark Furman on the stand.
Yeah.
And now it's too late. And we're going to hold their feet to the fire.
It's too late.
No matter where. If the case is sent out, we're going to resist it. We're ultimately going to get back here. This court, this jury, this country is going to hear these tapes. There is no hiding. They can run, but they can't hide. If the court has any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
Yes, Mr. Cochran, I take it. The problem is what you're asking for me to do, though, is to make a ruling on whether or not my own wife is a material or relevant witness.
No, let me correct the court on that. I'm not asking you to make that ruling at this point. What I'm asking you to do, we're the proponent of the evidence. What I'm asking you to do is to receive a redacted version of the tapes. The issue you have to make is whether or not these, what he says is material. When he calls somebody the N-word, Judge, and it's in the last 10 years, and it's his voice, and he's speaking about how he feels about black people. When he says, it's so derogatory, I don't even want to repeat the things.
Right,
when he says those things, that's the issue, Judge. And so, and the racial animus, it fits within your order. It has nothing to do with your wife.
Mr. Cochran, I have to accept, don't I, the offer of proof by counsel, by Ms. Clark, that they wish to offer that testimony. I have to accept what they offer.
No, you don't. I'll tell you why not. Because as you've done so many times to us, Your Honor, this 352, where is the relevance of it?
No, but even the determination of whether or not the offer of proof is sufficient, I don't think this court should be the court to
Bear
make
with me
the
just one second. Give me just a
Sure.
second.
Oh, Cochran's bringing it home. He's arguing. He is a damn good lawyer, as Alan says.
Reminded by my learned colleagues that we just left chambers, and I mentioned this earlier. Ms. Clark says she can't even argue materiality until some judge passes on the issue of what the jury is going to hear. And that's exactly the point. You never get to this. We're the proponent of the evidence. You don't even get to Margaret York. When you rule on his use repeatedly of the N-word, when you rule upon all the times he lies, I mean, there's an example on the judge about finding a gun, and you lie and you say you saw a suspect through it because you know he's probably guilty anyway. You know, that's exactly on point what we're talking about in this case. Or tearing up a black man's license saying he has no identification. That's exactly on point. Those things have nothing to do with Margaret York. And so she herself said, you said she wants a judge for all purposes, a new judge to come in here or go someplace and rule on the materiality of not only Margaret York, but all of this. And that's preposterous. That's a new position they've carved out when they went upstairs, isn't it? It is. And so what I'm saying, you don't get to that point. Your ruling back in January is the law of the case in that regard about the things we can do. Now, we may seek to expand it just a little bit by virtue of the fact where he has lied about other things that we can now prove by his word, but that fits within the whole rubric of credibility, which this is all about. I mean, so we're clear about this. And for those people who want to run around talking about race card, somebody need race card. This is about credibility card. This is about perjury. That's what this is about. People should understand that. So we're not asking you to do that. And I am very sensitive, Your Honor, to the fact that your wife's a police officer. We've been sensitive about that since day one. We're very sensitive. But we have relied upon you to be fair despite that. We knew about that first day, did we not? They knew about that first day. We relied upon your integrity. And Mr. Simpson chooses to still rely upon that integrity. What he is saying is that this is not an issue. It is a non-issue being dreamt up by them. You never even get to that. Who in the world could pass upon materiality, which he now talks about, but you? You think one of your colleagues can pass upon materiality in this case? I don't think so. And so that's the issue based upon her new position, that it doesn't make any sense. So when we submit these things to you, you will then see for yourself without Margaret York. And then you will see how under no scenario could they call Margaret York to the stand. Now we have furthermore, let me tell you how ridiculous they are. I'm going to show you something, Your Honor.
Show us, Johnny. Tell us how it's ridiculous.
Early on, when we sent this matter out to another court, and I'll just speak briefly about this because I don't want to infringe upon any conflict area. Your wife was kind enough to do a declaration. And in that declaration, let me just read you just one paragraph so you'll get a sense of how they're not going to be able to call Margaret York. Paragraph 4, this is a declaration of November 21st, 1994. I possess no relevant material or personal knowledge of Officer Furman, nor do I possess any information relevant to this case. Now, that's what your wife said under oath in that declaration of November 21st, 1994. You know, it's grabbing at straws to think now that they're going to call her up there. They're going to impeach her. They're going to impeach her based upon this. I mean, they just can't create stuff like this to try to get a mistrial or throw somebody off where we're on our way. They can't do that, Your Honor. And so that's the point. And
let me just make a comment. I think.
See, and I love this argument. He's like, we're winning. They're losing. They suck. They're trying to drag your wife in it. Judge, we know you're fair. We know you're a good guy. We know that you're doing your best up there. We don't have any problem with whatever you're doing. And your wife, oh, by the way, she gave us this statement saying she doesn't know anything about Mark Furman. She doesn't have anything material to this case. So they're just lying to you. They're trying to get a mistrial. They're trying to use you. They're trying to drag what Judge Ito should do is get down there, walk down there, slap Chris Darden, Chris Darden and Marcia Clark right upside the face, and just yell at them, keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth. That's what Judge Ito should do.
That when I was contemplating these issues last night, I was concerned that if I had to recuse myself mid-trial, that would be legal grounds for a mistrial, even over Mr. Simpson's objection. And my legal eagles from my law clerk staff found me People versus Espinosa, which is at 3 Cal 4th 806. It's a relatively recent case written by Justice Kennard. And
oh yeah. Forgot here. Oh, where'd we go? Where'd the statement go? Oh yeah. JKD Buck 76 says, holy shit, Clark discovered a conditioner. Yeah, this was after I told you, I mentioned a few weeks ago she was going to get a makeover midstream. She's had the makeover. The ramen hair is gone. Now she's got the Marcia Clark makeover here. Sorry about that.
Concurred in by all the remaining justices, that in this situation, the trial judge
oh God, I'm sorry to keep interrupting, but you guys are asking interesting questions. Is Furman still alive? Oh yes, Mark Furman is still alive. In fact, tomorrow we'll be hitting up a new interview with Mark Furman when I'm doing some law rants. Why is Mark Furman in the news these days? Because he's flapping his gums. He's flapping his gob, as the Steph the Altar Nerd would say, about the Idaho killings, the University of Idaho, the 4 students that were murdered there. He's flapping his gums about that because he happens to live in Coeur d'Alene, last I heard, which is just kind of sort of up the road a little ways from where this happened. So yeah, we're going to be looking at a new Mark Furman interview tomorrow. He's still very much alive.
Ill, and a second judge had to step in and take over the trial. This was a death penalty case, which did in fact result in the death penalty. And the judge was replaced midway through the guilt phase. And the court found that there was a legal necessity for the change of judges. However, that in that situation, another judge could then step in and take over the case. If I'm required to recuse myself under 170.1A1, I am convinced that the case law would support another judge stepping in, unfortunately having to take a week to read the transcripts or watch the video.
They will be on there.
But I don't think I see mistrial as a consequence.
Well, then let me just say this. If there is a mistrial, we believe jeopardy is attached. So if that's what they're hoping for, it's not going to work. We never agreed to it anyway at this point.
So what does it mean by when he says that if there is a mistrial, jeopardy attaches? Double jeopardy is where you cannot be tried twice for the same thing. If a simple mistrial, just a normal mistrial, means this trial doesn't happen. We quit this trial. We find and we start a new trial. We start all over again. But if you attach jeopardy, which means there's already been jeopardy in this case. What that means is he's arguing that if you do dismiss this case, you have to dismiss it with prejudice, jeopardy attaches, and the prosecution should not be allowed to refile this case. It should be over and done with because we've argued it. They realize they're losing. They just want a mistrial so that they can get a do-over. And so we're too far down the road for that to happen. They don't get to go back to square one and try it again. So if it's dismissed, you must dismiss it with prejudice so that double jeopardy would attach and they cannot bring these charges against Mr. Simpson again. That's what he's arguing.
And we told you back in chambers that we thought that was possible. We know of a case in Las Vegas, as Mr. Shapiro indicated to you, where a judge is indicted during the trial and they bring another judge in, or if someone dies. So another judge could do that. But even if another judge does that, you see, the problem still is we have an obligation to these citizens over here who've been sitting on this case. We promised to get them out of here. We have an obligation to move this case forward. And I just think who among your brethren and sisters on the bench is going to be able to determine materiality or relevancy better than you are after having been on this case for well over a year now.
Yep.
If the part regarding Captain York is redacted. And that's the point that I'm indicating, because I've tried to indicate to you as clearly as I can, there is no basis for calling her. You heard a number of times our argument regarding something we felt very strongly about, the ability to call these reporters, and something we felt very strongly. And repeatedly, you rule, it's not relevant, it's not relevant, it's not relevant. I'm telling you, that's not even close. This is not even close to that. It's like night and day. And they're grabbing at straws. And I think you can see from what I've told you, how could Margaret York, based upon your earlier ruling, be relevant in this situation? It's not. So that's just something they brought up. And I just think it's preposterous for us to spend all this time on it. Excuse me 1 second.
All right. Talk to your co-counsel there. Get that stuff out in the open. Figure out what you want to do. Get Peter Neufeld, and that's Barry Scheck. We're going to start watching Barry Scheck go to town in a couple of weeks.
The final thing I'll say, Your Honor, and thank you for allowing us this time, is that in Ms. Clark's last discussion in chambers, she talked about somebody deciding the overall materiality, perhaps other than you. And we do take great exception to that. I don't think anyone else could do that. I think we just delay the trial unnecessarily. It doesn't make any sense. As regards Margaret York,
it doesn't make sense.
One makes a determination of materiality, or if you feel the need out of appearances' sake.
Barry Scheck was the guy standing up with no porn stash.
Someone I could presume some judge could read your reading, take your ruling, look at it all, and make that judgment that I think they'll of necessity come to, that Margaret York is irrelevant material. But that way we don't lose, the trial isn't stopped, we don't lose this time, and we don't have the necessary problem. We want a verdict in this case with this jury. Make that clear. We'll be pleased if Your Honor is still here. Be with us on that date. If Your Honor can't be here under Espinosa, bring us somebody else. We want justice. We want it now. It's our client who's been in custody since June 17th, and he's maintained his innocence from that day. And now we can establish that innocence through their lying witness. And they should have known about it. And we found it. And now everybody wants these tapes. That's what we're talking about here.
Thank you, counsel.
All right.
Ms. Clark.
Woo. He took everybody to church.
Inflammatory invective.
Now let's hear how Marcia Clark defends against that. How does Marcia Clark handle Handle Johnny Cochran dropping the boom on her. She starts by making fun of him and saying, he's a blowhard. And it just kind of goes downhill from there.
Not a no amount of inflammatory invective, rhetoric, and the persistent press conferences the council insists on giving in court can obscure the fact that they want this issue to remain in this court for a very cynical, cunning reason that I do not think is true, but is the problem here. And the problem is this. Given the set of circumstances that we have, the court is aware that there are allegations made. The court is aware of the fact of the statements made by Detective Furman concerning Captain York. The court is not aware of the details. But the mere awareness of that fact creates an appearance that the court may in some way be influenced in one way or another concerning the issues regarding the admissibility of the tapes. That's the legal issue that's framed. The people of this state have the right to expect that we will seek to protect the record in every way possible, regardless of what the fact of the matter is. We know that this court can be very impartial and very unbiased, and yet we cannot possibly say it would be fair to require this court to set aside its knowledge of the fact that some inflammatory statements were made about the court's spouse in ruling on an issue of this delicacy and sensitivity. The truth of the matter is that I think that what the defense wants to do here is hold this issue over the court's head and the waiver issue as well over the court's head, hope that the court will be inflamed enough by the mere knowledge of the fact of the allegations to either rule that the tapes come in more than it ordinarily would, or bend over backward in favor of the defense to show how fair it can be, or bend over backwards to take revenge against Mark Furman. I think that's the defense thinking here. I really do. And whether it's true or not, that kind of thinking is what the courts have talked about in terms of the appearance. No matter what you do, Judge, you will be criticized because there is an appearance created, and it's a no-win situation.
Well, that's pretty much par for every day, isn't it?
Yes, I agree. I mean, and I think that may be true for quite a few of us here.
She is so outclassed by Johnny Cochran. Her arguments are just like, it's like a master thespian just outacting a third grader. Marcia Clark is way out of her depth here. Totally lacking in character, charisma, enthusiasm. She's just getting trounced.
And the court has my sympathy in this very unusual and difficult situation. But it is not a situation that is made easier on this court or made more appropriate by counsel's rhetoric and the constant pointing of fingers and the constant allegations of lying witnesses. Now, I think it's very interesting that counsel has repeatedly said they don't want a mistrial. The people have made it clear. We want this jury to decide this case as well. In whatever manner we can, we don't want a mistrial. I don't want there to be any mistake about that, because the families of these victims have had their lives on hold for long enough. We hear about Mr. Simpson and his rights. I never speak in derogation of any defendant's rights, and I will certainly not do so here. He has the right to a fair trial and a speedy one. And I agree. So do the families of the victims. They have rights here. They have feelings. They have suffered. They have grieved. And now they're being put through this trial on national television to grieve publicly, when at least most families of victims can grieve in their private homes.
What does that have to do with your arguments, Marcia?
On national television, with every horrible issue, every single argument, every single thing that comes up, with every witness they've had to suffer through it. The court has seen
what does that have to do with the point?
They have a right to have this jury hear this case and
So
have
do
it
it.
resolved.
Then
Now,
remove your emotion.
In all fairness, counsel keeps talking about who got the tapes. The court is aware of the fact that as soon as the people were aware of those tapes' existence, and that was very recent, we sought to get the tapes. We sought the guidance of the court. We asked to issue an SDT.
I recollect Mr. Darden's.
Yeah.
1054.7.
So I just want there to be no mistake on the record that Mr. Cochran once again is trying to mislead everyone in saying that we tried to hide the tapes, that we had knowledge of them. No, we were out there looking for them first, with the minute we found out. So I just want the record to be very clear about that. Mark Furman's characterization of his role in this case, whatever that may be, is so irrelevant as to be laughable. Whatever he thinks, however important he thinks he is, we all have a sense of importance about ourselves. Some of us are a little bit too low, some of us are a little too high. Doesn't matter. The bottom line is, what is his role really? Not what he thinks it is. And counsel knows that. Counsel also knows very, very well, as this court does, that we didn't need to call Mark Furman at all as a witness.
But you
in this
did.
case. We did. Complete the picture. We call all the relevant witnesses, whether they are absolutely legally necessary or not.
And you got your
Now, the
ass
fact
handed
that
to
he
you.
was called to testify does not mean that we characterize him as being the key witness in the case. He found a piece of evidence. What we vouch for in terms of Detective Furman, in terms of everyone in this case, is that no one planted any evidence at any time. There has been no false statement made about where that evidence was found, the analysis of the evidence, or its results.
Oh, I think the jury will decide that, not you. But she's finally getting fired up. She sees that she's losing. She's got to get fired up. She's doing it.
And the defense wants to squirm away from that fact by playing the race card. We don't want to do that. We've never wanted to do that. We know what a search for the truth means, Your Honor. We know that the truth we are searching for is who murdered these people, not who is Detective Furman. If there was any opportunity for anyone to plant that evidence, to plant that glove, it would be a different story, a totally different story, but there wasn't. The defense knows that. And they're caught between a rock and a hard place, because no matter how badly they want to paint somebody to be the villain in this case, other than their client, the truth of the matter is all of the arrows point to the defendant, because that's the mountain of evidence that exists that he cannot get away from. There was no opportunity for Mark Furman to plant the glove. And so whatever his personal beliefs may be,
Lies.
which we may or may not know, the truth of the matter is he could not do what they're trying to prove he did. And now that the evidence has come out conclusively, irrefutably, and consistently that there was no opportunity to plant a glove, they are just going all out to smear Mark Furman in the very cynical and shrewd effort to pull this jury away from the evidence, to manipulate them, to play them like fiddles, and to say, ignore the evidence. We know we haven't proven anything to you. We know we have failed to prove a conspiracy. We know that we can never prove anybody planted the glove or the blood on the socks or the blood on the gate. We know there are pictures of the defendant wearing the gloves of the exact same type and model purchased by Nicole just 3 weeks after the purchase that are the exact same type and model as these crime scene gloves. Don't look at that. Don't look at that. We have a big bad boy for you here who said terrible things and possibly done terrible things. That's what's important here. It would be if he could have done anything to impact the evidence in this case, but he could not. And that's the truth of the matter. And they want to manipulate this jury so that they will not look at that evidence. So they will look at only the villainous accusations made against Detective Furman. And if they're true, then it is very bad. And that is another search for the truth. The truth we are searching for here, right now, in this case, and I agree, Your Honor, let's try the Simpson case, is who killed these people. And we know it wasn't Detective Furman. Whatever Detective Furman has done in his past is not part of this case, because he could not do, and we know it now, and they know it too, he could not do what they wanted to prove he could do. So that's fine. We can all search for that truth after the fact.
All right, well, let's circle back to the issue that's.
Yeah, let's circle back to the issue, Marcia.
You've indicated that you feel somehow that Captain York will be a material witness in this case. So isn't that a preliminary fact or preliminary legal determination that has to be made at this point?
Well, no, see, and that's the problem here, is that we need to make something, and we need to find out what is going to be admissible before we will know how to respond. It would appear, based on what I've seen in these transcripts, and I've read them all, that it could very well be that Captain York will be a rebuttal witness, depending on what is deemed admissible. If a court rules that none of these tapes are admissible, then obviously she's not needed as a rebuttal witness. If the court, on the other hand, rules that much of these tapes, with their inflammatory language, is played in front of this jury, and make no mistake about it, you know, if you have any doubt that what this defense wants to do is inflame the passions of the jury and cause them to look away from the evidence, you only need to refer to Mr. Cochran's remarks when he said to you just today that the remarks are so derogatory he doesn't want to repeat them. I agree with him. I don't want to repeat them either. And I don't want to repeat them in front of the jury either, where they have no relevance.
Well,
But until we know that, how do we know how we're going to respond?
Then let me ask you this question. Who should make it and why?
I believe that in context, knowing that what we do, I mean, the court is already aware that there are negative comments made by Detective Furman about the court's spouse. I think that that knowledge requires that another judicial officer determine what is material, what is relevant, what is admissible in terms of these tapes. At that time, we'll be able to determine what the people's response will be, or potential response will be. But until that determination is made, and I think we can't know. Now, what I was starting to address to the court was the issue of the appearances, and the sections and the brief that I have a draft of but has not been finalized yet frames that issue very squarely. And that is when there's even an appearance that there might be an impropriety or there might be a bias, then it would be appropriate for it to be referred out to another judge. Now, that doesn't mean, and in my opinion, that is a limited thing. That would mean that another judge makes the materiality call, but then we can come back.
But I just want to suggest to you that as a practical matter, I'm wrestling between the offer made by Mr. Cochran that this court make the admissibility determination of all the materials with the exception of what refers to my wife, that being redacted, versus, and then because this court is obviously more familiar with the issues and the facts and events of this case, as a practical matter, since you raised the appearances problem, and I agree that's a very wide penumbra that comes with that. And I'm very sensitive to that, as I must be. As a practical matter, it's going to take another judge will have to read Furman's transcripts, will have to make reference to other issues in the, will have to read other witnesses. For example, Detective Lang's testimony regarding his then going outside and seeing the glove as he was directed by Detective Furman. He or she will have to read Cato Kalin's testimony regarding the conduct of Detective Furman. I suspect a Lexus word search through the transcript where Detective Furman comes up will likely involve, perhaps, my guess is that another judicial officer working full-time all day, every day will take a week to resolve this issue.
That may well be, Your Honor. The problem is, though, that I really don't see how it could be. It just does not seem appropriate under the wide berth of the appearance of impropriety standard for this court to resolve that issue. Knowing what is hanging out there in terms of Captain York and the possibility of her being a material witness, and the allegations that the court has the knowledge of the fact of, if not the details. And I cannot see how it could possibly be appropriate, although I understand we have a problem with another judge having to spend considerable time to get up to speed. It can be done. And I think that in all fairness to all parties, and especially to this court, it would be a matter best left to the auspices of another court where there can be no allegation that there is any motive to do anything, either to bend over backwards to preclude the tapes or to bend over backwards to admit more of them. It is really a no-win position for this court, and I think that it is not one that was contemplated as for any court to undertake. And that is why they have the broad standard of the appearance of impropriety as it is.
Let's assume that I accept your argument concerning the breadth of the appearance problem. Are you prepared to, on behalf, or you might want to contemplate this, are you prepared to go forward with other witnesses?
I think that we could. I don't see why not. And I'd really prefer to do that, Your Honor, rather than lose time with this jury and let another judge get up to speed on those issues. But I don't see why this court could not continue to hear the rest of the case. And that would be a much more effective use of time.
All right, do you have any other comment? Any other suggestions as to what we have to do?
May I have a moment?
Well, if we're coming to a head here, Judge Ito's got to decide what to do. It looks like what they're asking is for another judge to review the Mark Furman situation to review the tapes, the testimony up to this point, and decide whether or not Judge Ito should recuse himself from the trial.
Let me see counsel without the reporter, please.
And he's asking, well, if we do that, that's going to take a while for the judge to get up to speed and make a decision. But in the meantime, do you mind if we continue to call witnesses and continue to try to move this case along? Flux, somehow I'm disappointed in you. Flux saying she'd smash Marcia Clark. Kind of disappointed, but you know, with the new makeover, I can see it a little better. Marty Graham, welcome to the Clean and Sober crew as our newest member. Congratulations and thank you. I'm so pissed off about that Griner thing. Ugh. Come on. All right, hurry up. Now, as we mentioned before, the Courtney Clenny OnlyFans murder trial, there's a bond hearing decision scheduled today where the court is going to rule whether or not she gets out on bond
Clark, you had some additional
before trial.
citations.
The court is in
Your Honor, let
session
me,
now,
cite to
and
the
they
court
have a full docket
Flyer
of
versus
bond
Superior
hearings.
Court,
So we'll let you know
22
as soon as
Calab 465 at page
they actually start
170.
talking about Clenny's
And
case.
indicates that it goes into 170.1C, or excuse me, is it? I think it's C. A6C. A6C. Quote, the standard for disqualification provided for in subdivision A6C of section 170.1 is fundamentally an objective one. If a reasonable member of the public at large, aware of all the facts, would fairly entertain doubts concerning the judge's impartiality, disqualification is mandated. The existence of actual bias is not required.
Okay.
And that's basically the situation that we're confronting here today. What the court is aware of is that nothing in this case has ever been kept under wraps, no matter how diligently we have attempted to do so. And in this particular case, we have parties that are not before this court that are in possession of much of this information who may have a real interest in putting out little snippets of information to tweak the interests of the public. The allegations made by Mark Furman concerning female officers and Captain York
we've ranted
will
about that
undoubtedly
a few
become
minutes
a matter
ago.
of public knowledge. I have never been surprised in this case since, I guess, September or October, at all the things that do come out, whether they should or not. This will, I'm sure, be no exception in either large or small part. That's the only thing we don't know is how much will come out. But we have the additional issue here of the fact of a detective on whose credibility the court will rule in terms of the evidence that will be admissible, who has made allegations about other female officers in addition to Captain York. So we're talking about an awful lot here that can be, at least to the public at large, something that would cause them to entertain doubts concerning the impartiality. And I think that under this circumstance, Judge, how can you possibly avoid criticism no matter what you do? And I realize that the court has been in that
You
situation
created this
before,
situation,
but I think in
Marcia.
all fairness, that
Don't
this is
pretend
one
to be on
that is
judge's side. You created
unfair
this.
to put on the shoulders of this court simply because of the fact that there will be nothing that you can do. And the materiality.
Yeah, see, she created this situation. She's like, oh, no matter what you decide, Judge, if you recuse yourself or if you decide to stay here, someone will criticize you for it. You created this situation, Marcia Clark, with this bullshit argument. So now she's trying to make it like she's not trying to make the judge's life miserable by saying, let another judge decide whether you should stick around or not.
The issue, well, with respect to what is admissible, we can't put the cart before the horse. So I know that another judge will be hard pressed to go through everything, and yet
a tremendous burden on some other court.
it is. I can't deny that, Judge, but I think it's something that we have to do. We know that there will be no mistrial. We are aware of that. We went upstairs, we researched the issue, and we realized that there is no danger of that. And so that was never a concern. And had it been, we would have had to confront something else.
Ladies, are those
Unfortunately,
clip-on
we don't.
earrings?
Um,
They look too low to have holes in them.
All right, just for the record,
And if there is another
I'm sorry.
option.
I just wanted to mention that the language that you cited to me in the Flyer case actually quotes the United Farm Workers. It's a quote from the United Farm Workers case that I cited to you.
Right, and we have that one as well, Your Honor. So it's obviously a well-known, well-read passage. But there is another way to resolve this. If the defense wants to withdraw the race card, we have no problem and no issue, because that is not an appropriate thing to have been injected into this trial, and it has been repeatedly by counsel. If we could just try this case on the evidence and the facts, we wouldn't be confronting this right now. This is something that has been injected into this case in a very shrewd manner by the defense. And if they want to withdraw that now and finally try this case with this evidence and these facts, we can obviate the need for all of this.
All right. Thank you, counsel. Mr. Cochran, I'm concerned about the appearance argument that Ms. Clark makes.
May I address that?
And I'm concerned, it concerns me because of the argument that this court, in making a ruling on the overall materiality of the tapes, might be motivated to punish Detective Furman for saying these things about the court's wife, therefore giving a broader range of admissibility. Or it could be argued in the converse that the court might not want this kind of stuff to come out and would not want the court's wife to be embarrassed or to be put through the public spectacle of being part of this trial. I mean, that could cut either way. And the problem is not that any of that is true. And, you know, as professionals in this field, we know that things are said about people all the time that are not accurate, not kind, and oftentimes disparaging. And I know that women who operate within male-dominated professions and who are successful are always targets for this kind of treatment. And it's something that you live with and you adjust to and you overcome. But the problem is the appearance is what concerns me.
I appreciate that, Your Honor. I appreciate that very much. And I welcome the opportunity, it will not be long, to address those issues that you've raised and a couple of others. With regard to this idea of appearance, Your Honor, you've been married to Captain New York for a number of years before this case. Some of us at the outset of this case, remember back in Department 100, believed that you could be fair despite that you had integrity. Each step along the way, as I recall, you have told us when your wife was transferred, she was in bunco forgery, I think, then she was transferred to internal affairs, and we may have concerns about her being in internal affairs, but we didn't have concerns about your integrity and your fundamental fairness in this case. As I pointed out before on this idea of appearance, the people are somewhat hoisted by their own petard. On the one hand, they want to have it sent out to determine the things on Margaret York. On the other hand, they say, well, now we want somebody to determine all the materiality. And that doesn't make any sense because you don't have a conflict regarding all the other materiality, it seems to me, so that at least you should make that determination. I didn't hear a good answer from Ms. Clark regarding that. You would be in a position to best make that determination. Judge, let me just tell you, Mr. Blazer was kind enough to run on his computer. Mark Furman's name has been mentioned 1,813 times in the transcripts in this case. You don't think he's key to this case? It's not only in his mind, it's in their mind, it's in everybody's mind. He's key. They want to wipe him away, of course. They didn't call Dr. Gola. They can wipe people away, but they're not going to be able to do that. And so the judge, the point is, this is critical. You can't just read Lang's 9 days of testimony, another judge, and get up to speed. You've got to understand what Lang and Van Adder and Cato Kalin said. You got to understand, Judge, how important this witness is, because remember, they talk about not planning stuff. Preposterous. This man goes off by himself for 15 minutes or more, and then he supposedly finds his glove. Judge, this is after he's been taken off the case. It's not his case anymore. So, you know, I'm not going to argue that because that's preposterous what she was saying. And a jury will make that determination. But this man, you have to get all of the facts to understand Furman's involvement. And so, you know, the thought that some other judge is going to decide materiality based upon the ruling you made back in January is preposterous. And it's unfair to the whole system. And furthermore, you know, there's another punishment I thought about when I was sitting there. this jury is going to think the defense is holding this up. And again, it's the prosecution by this frivolous attempt here, by trying to stop the proceeding. This is during our case, not during their case, because they want to avoid what's coming. Now, let me just address a couple other things, Your Honor. Counsel talks a lot about, she made a number of statements, which I won't even bother to dignify.
Now, before he doesn't bother to dignify things, let's clear a couple of chats out of the way. Timothy Schultz said, after watching this trial, you need to watch ESPN 30 for 30 documentary, OJ Made in America. It covers his career and this trial. It's a 5-part series and a must watch if you're watching this. Great show. All of the 30 for 30 things are great. Those are some great documentaries. Cindy Darkheart says, who is the bald guy sitting next to OJ? This bald guy here, that's Robert Blazer, one of his lawyers. Blaiser is his name. Xcomer, Triple Z to the super sticker. Thank you so much for the super sticker. Appreciated. Again, what is the issue at hand? Asked Jenna a long time ago. Whether or not Judge Ito should recuse himself because Mark Furman says on the tapes some bad things about Judge Ito's wife. And the prosecution thinks that she might be called as a witness, in which case he has to recuse himself. The defense is saying, well, we don't need her part of the testimony. We can just redact it. She has nothing to do with this case. Let's just remove all mention of her and put the rest of the tape in. And that's what he's deciding. And finally, to be Flair, I hope Vices can make it to Clenny. This is the crew I like jamming with. Vice Squad for the win, for the WJN6. Now, what's happening? The Courtney Clenny bond hearing, the bond court is in session right now as we speak. I've got it up on another screen here. But what the bond court does is they just open it and they have everybody that's looking to get a bond to get out of jail that day in court. And the judge is going through everybody one at a time, deciding whether or not to allow someone to post bond to get out of jail pending their trial. Courtney hasn't shown up yet. She's somewhere in the courtroom, but she hasn't, her part of the bond hearing hasn't come up yet. So that's where the Courtney Clenny thing is. I'll likely go, but after it's over, after she does her thing, I'll likely go and just do a quick 15, 20, 30-minute stream. And then we'll talk about it again tomorrow evening. So, all right. To be Flair says, okay, thanks for clarifying. No problem. Let's see. That's all the super chats we got. How are we doing on the likes as long as we're paused? 464 concurrent viewers and 377 likes. Let's get 33 more likes and get up to 500. We got 400. Let's get 30 more likes, get up to 400. Smash that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. She already went, Legal Vices. Did she? I didn't see it. Huh. Must have snuck in under the radar. Huh. I don't think she did. Whatever. Maybe she did. I don't know. Anywho. Okay. I don't think she's been there yet. Anyway, let's get back to this. Gotta get this to a decision, and we'll wrap this one up. We've hit the 2-hour mark. It's time to wrap this rascal.
With regard to these tapes, I should point out to Your Honor that they may have talked to Your Honor in chambers, but they didn't go to North Carolina. They didn't do any of that. We're the ones who did that, and he's their witness. So I mean, let's make the record completely clear. She talks a lot about this idea of a race card, and we take personal umbrage to that because, as this court knows, credibility is the key of every case. Calgic 2.21, etc., says a witness materially false in one part can be distrusted in others unless the greater probability of truth lies in their testimony. So, Judge, this is about credibility. It's not about race. I happen to be black. He happens to be black. These men happen to be white. What difference does that make? We're all still Americans. The question is, in this case, credibility and whether or not this man has lied under oath, which the tapes will show that he has. So she talks about withdrawing the race card. That's preposterous. Withdrawing anything. She'd like for us to do that. We're not withdrawing the credibility card, because that's what this is. And so that was a nice move, but it's not going to work. And now, in addition to that, Your Honor, let me come back and end on this note about Captain York. Seems to me that a reasonable
Umbrage
wise way out
Pettards.
of this
What's next?
is for us to continue with this case. Defense, Mr. Simpson shouldn't be punished because they have this frivolous motion. Another judge is going to take, I think you're being very kind. A week is going to be very long. You know, most courts, unfortunately, don't work as hard as we work in this court. So it's going to take a judge from 9 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock at night, longer than a week, to read all this testimony, to understand what this case is about, to become familiar. When you could rule on materiality, because we're going to submit to you tapes that have nothing to do with your wife. If at all, she's talking about this coming up in rebuttal, because that's the only time they get back up. So how do we even get to that issue? Because it's going to become very clear to everybody that that's never going to be an issue. Your wife has nothing relevant to say. Are they going to say, Judge, let's think about this for a minute. Is Marsha Clark going to have the gall, after we play these tapes for this jury, to stand up before this jury and say, well, he didn't use the N-word. He didn't talk about throwing people downstairs and breaking their necks. He didn't do all that stuff. And Margaret York can tell us. That's preposterous. That is preposterous. It's not going to happen. You know it's not going to happen. And so out of an appearance, because you want to be fair, but you know what? Let me tell you something. When you get in the kitchen, you stand the heat. You've said that before. You stand the heat every day. It's not going to be popular. We're mad at you one day. They're mad at you one day. Somebody's always mad at you. And so you understand that. But we handle it with respect and we come back the next day.
Well, I must be doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, somebody's always mad at you. Well, that's for sure. And the question is, are you even-handed when you pass out these things? We talked about that yesterday at the thing. And are you even-handed? That's all we've ever asked for. We just want you to be fair to both sides. And you are in a best position to be fair on this issue of materiality. Another judge, it's an unfair burden, and they just can't do it. So we don't even get to this point about rebuttal until that point. And Ms. Clark does admit, let's go on with the trial. But the problem with going on with the trial, Judge, as you recall, we give them our witnesses, and we have, as you know, we'd like very much to finish Ms. Kessler. And then we have Mr. Regal, and then we're right up against McKinney and our ability to play these tapes. And that's what we want to do. We want to proceed with our cross-examination at that point. And I'm telling you that when the part we submit to you, he'll have nothing to do with Captain York. We don't want to play anything about Captain York. This is our case. What do you always say? We have a right to try our case the way we want to. Now, if they want to deal in some fantasy land and try to figure a way to bring your wife in, it'll become clear not only to you, to this jury, but everybody in America that that's just folly. And it's not going to happen, I'm telling you. So why do we have to go through this in the first place? So when you get back to the idea of appearance, it has to make some sense of an appearance. The only reason you know about your wife being in these tapes, you know why? Because yesterday, Ms. Clark went up there and told you about that. We didn't tell you about that. They told you. She brought it up, and then we confirmed certain things, but she was the one who asked to tell you about that. Now, I don't think it's relevant because we had made a decision among the defense that it wasn't relevant. We aren't going to offer it. So why would we even be going into that? It has no relevance. And that's the point. That's where we stand now. We have no relevance. So we find ourselves in this unique position where the defense is saying to a judge who's married to an LAPD captain, you go forward because we think you can be fair in this particular. We think even more than that, you've shown with regard to your ruling in this case, which is somewhat the law of the case. And when you look at that ruling, it's pretty clear about the things we'll be allowed to do. This is not a big issue. You know, they've tried 402 motions on every witness we had in their search for truth. But the law is already set out pretty much on what we can do with Furman. And that's why these tapes are so very, very important. It's spelled out. It's right. I mean, Judge, if you were a lawyer and you went to sleep and you dreamed about something happening and you woke up, you couldn't have asked for more than to have the key prosecution witness on tape for 10 years talking about the things this man talks about. And when I talk about that, it has nothing to do with your wife. I mean, as I said, he doesn't like anybody, but specifically, he doesn't like black people. And specifically, he likes to frame people. And specifically, he lies when it suits his fancy. And he was their witness. And this is about credibility. And you can't wipe out credibility because that's the key to this case for everybody is whom are you going to believe? It's not Miss Clark's theories. She throws out all these theories about gloves. That's just for the press. They can't prove anything about any gloves. They can't prove anything. They would have proved them before. It's just speculation. And at the end of this case, Judge, things haven't gone well, and they're trying to figure a way out, but they're not going to get out because you know what the facts are. And I'm just saying on this whole idea of appearance that I think you'll be fair. I don't think you're going to bend over backwards either way. I mean, I think you're going to call it the way you see it. I mean, I would expect nothing less of you. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been here in the first place. We'd have gone someplace else. So we want to finish this case with you, but We want to finish this case regardless, with or without you, as I said before, and we hope it's with you. But just remember the burden they ask you to place upon one of your colleagues for no good reason. 1,813 times Furman's name is mentioned to this point. Think somebody's going to get a flavor for that? Reading the testimony, you think they're going to get a flavor for Bailey's cross-examination, how important this is? And then way off in the distance is the specter that, gee, we may think of a reason to call Margaret York so we can get you off the case or get some other judge down here. Why would they be doing that? They worried about you all of a sudden?
Yep.
Your appearance? Well, we're saying there is no appearance regarding the materiality, the overall materiality in this case. That you're the only appearance is that you're the one best suited to do it. That's the appearance we're faced with. And as to the other, if it comes up at that time and you feel some question about it, then deal with it back then. Deal with it on the back end when we get to that point. But I think after you rule on what's relevant, and we're not asking for Margaret York, and it's not their case to ask for it. So it's in our ballpark. We don't even cross that bridge. How many times do you tell us, counsel, you're premature? They are premature at this point, and it will probably never, ever come up. So I respectfully ask you to, let's go on with this case. The jury has a right to hear these witnesses and the right to get this case and make a decision. May I have a second, Your Honor?
All right, let's skip through some of the boring stuff here. Talk.
Reviewed certain internal affairs files on Furman, I believe. I'm pretty sure about that. I know you conducted a hearing regarding the district attorney's office and their prep session of Furman, where they're all present. They sat around and, you know, in the grand jury room. So you've done those things. I mean, there's so many things that you've done already. Nobody was worried about any appearance of conflict at that point. Your wife at that point was, I think, assigned to internal affairs. We didn't raise any issue at that point because we've trusted you, Judge, all along. I don't know where their trust went along the way. All of a sudden, they're worried about some appearance, and the appearance doesn't even show up at this point. Mr. Simpson, if the court will allow me, wants this court to be aware of the fact that certainly he, along with all of us in this courtroom, his heart goes out to the families and the victims of this case. He is also a victim in this case. And so when Marcia Clark makes those statements, don't for one minute.
I think OJ was 46, I
misunderstand
think.
our sensitivities. We try to conduct ourselves in a way throughout regarding the families of these victims. But we have a man who from the very beginning has maintained his innocence. And he is troubled by what the so-called authorities have done to hide and cover up for this Detective Furman. Somebody out there, Judge, should do something about this cover-up. Somebody should do something about all these files that have been hidden and sealed. This is still America, and that's unfair. And we think it bears directly upon Furman's activities in this case, other cases, and it has a direct bearing on OJ Simpson's innocence. And he has maintained and continues and will maintain his innocence till the day he dies, because he believes that the facts will show that, and in fact, he is innocent. He wanted me to indicate that to the court, that there's not any lack of sensitivity at all on our part at all. But he too has become a victim in this rush to judgment. And so he wants his day in court, and we want to proceed and do that. Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Briefly.
He was 48 when this was on. Briefly, shut
There
up,
are no
Marcia.
cases cited by counsel. Counsel cites to a frivolous motion. It's his motion. It is counsel's desire to get these tapes before the jury. And I agree, it's frivolous. There is no cover-up going on, Your Honor. We're not, you know, Mr. Cochran cannot presume to think for the prosecution. He can't get into our minds or our offices or our briefcases and tell us who we can call on rebuttal and who would be appropriate. And, you know, I think that we know how to try our case a little better than he does. And what is the appropriate witness to call in response to whatever they may be permitted to do is something that we have to determine. And this is something that we will determine only after we know what is relevant and admissible. But what Mr. Cochran is very insensitive to is the position that this court is put in and the appearances that are going to be created if this issue is left in this court at this time. The rules of judicial conduct also require that the court always remove from itself from any possibility of an appearance of partiality or impropriety. And now Mr. Cochran is trying to lure this court into abandoning that code of judicial ethics. This court knows what the reality is. And the fact of the matter is, that's why the cases talk about the appearances and not the actual proof of such a thing. Mr. Cochran and his team, I am sure, are hoping and calculating that you will be biased, Your Honor. That's the point of this kind of situation. Whether you actually ever do that, and we do not believe that you will, But whether you actually do at some point or not, that is their hope and their desire. That is the motive here. That's the target. Must make no mistake about it. And whatever you do, however you rule, there will always be the appearance that somehow they got their way, perhaps, or that perhaps the opposite. You leaned unfairly on them to avoid that appearance. No one will ever know, because that appearance does exist. That's the problem that we face with this situation. They have the opportunity to obviate the whole thing, but they have made it very, very clear the way they want to try this case. They've been doing it now for almost 9 months. They're not going to stop. It's going to be up to a court to stop them. The press conferences, the invective, the allegations, the untrue allegations. I wasn't talking theories when I said nothing was planted. I'm talking fact. I'm talking evidence. I'm talking what witnesses have said under oath. They've got nothing of the kind on their side. They have allegations, they have empty theories, they have conflicted theories, contradictions within their own theories. It's nonsense, smoke and mirrors again. We're used to it. We're old hands at this. We've seen this for how long? 20 years now? The defense always gets up and puts on this smoke screen like an octopus. You get too close. Out comes the ink. This is their ink. This is it. I'm not
Her
saying
examples are
that
so
Mark Furman
weird.
should be painted as a god or a hero, but he's certainly no critical witness, as counsel keeps insisting. And whatever
The
is
defense's
determined,
arguments
I
are
hope
like
that
an
this jury, and I have
octopus.
faith that this jury is not going to be as easily played as counsel anticipates or as counsel plans. Nevertheless, counsel has failed to give this court any case authority or any factual authority or made any offer to stipulate in any way, shape, or form or issue a waiver that might make it possible for this court to hear this issue. And in light of that fact, Your Honor, we are left with the problem that we are left with. And I don't see how the court can do otherwise than have the case sent to Department 100.
All right.
Before you do that,
Thank
Your
you,
Honor,
counsel.
I'd ask Mr. Douglas to call Mr. Dershowitz, fact machine. We want, before Your Honor makes any final thing, a chance to get some cases for the court. As you know, during the break, we did speak with Messrs. Dershowitz and Jerry Ullman. And so we'd like for you to have those before you make any final ruling.
All right, I was anticipating taking the matter under submission, doing some research over the lunch hour, and ruling this afternoon.
We'll have whatever we have by that time, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Clark, if you have some other authorities, you can give it to Mrs. Robertson.
Thank you.
That'll be fine, Your Honor. Your Honor, can I say one last thing?
Yes.
Uh,
No, actually, no. I've heard enough.
All right.
It's just that naturally polite
I'll
reaction
say
that
it.
I have.
Your Honor, do you want to wait on other testimony until you resolve this issue? Is it-
I think we need to resolve this issue first. This is sort of, I'm required to rule on this issue once it's been presented to me, and that takes precedence over all other issues. So this has to be determined at this time. All right, we'll stand in recess till 1:45.
All right. So that's the arguments as to why he should be recused or not, why he should recuse himself or not from the trial. How it ultimately turns out. I mean, clearly he doesn't get recused from the trial because he was there to the end. He decides that they will turn it over to another judge to decide whether he should recuse himself, whether the whether the evidence that they might be presenting through his wife is relevant, is pertinent to the case, and the other ancillary issues around that. And so it was taking a long time for the judge to do this. And apparently at some point during the this appointed judge's reviewing of these issues, Marcia Clark withdrew her motion to have Judge Ito recuse himself from the trial. Yeah, so after all that, how it worked out was eventually Marcia Clark withdrew the motion and said, "Oh, never mind, Judge Ito, you can stick around." So that's what they're saying. All right, that's it. It was a whole nothing burger. It was some drama in the courtroom for quite a while, but she pussied out. Exactly. As Puffer Smile says, she pussied out. Yep. That's how that all ended. She'd made the threats. She said they were calling him as a witness. Judge Ito has to go for this reason, this reason, this reason. Oh, never mind. You don't have to go, but we want another judge to decide it. And even while she got what she asked for, in the middle of it, she wussed out and withdrew her motion to have Judge Ito recuse himself. And then trial continued as normal. So where are we going with this next week? Next week, we'll get into the final run of the Mark Furman related stuff. What's happening is F. Lee Bailey wants to recall Mark Furman to the stand to have him give more testimony about being a racist and possible evidence planter. He wants Kathleen Bell, who heard Mark Furman dropping N-bombs at a Marine recruiting station, to testify. And she wants McKinney is her name, the playwright who made all of these recordings over 10 years, wants her to come and give testimony about him dropping the N-bombs and play some of the tapes. That's what we're going to go through. And then once we finish with, I think it's Kathleen Bell, then McKinney. But as soon as we finish with those two ladies, then we will start, I said, hopefully 2 or 3 weeks from now, we will start on the Barry Scheck dismantling of criminologist Dennis Fung, who I've mentioned repeatedly was on the stand being cross-examined by Barry Scheck for 8.5 days. It was brutal. It was artwork. It was beauty. It was one of the most amazing cross-examinations I've ever seen in my life. Not cross-examination. Yeah, I guess it'd be cross-examination. One of the most beautiful cross-examinations I've ever seen in my life. Just took him apart. And I'm inclined to watch all 8.5 days of that, which would take us about 3 months of Thursdays to get through. But it's so beautiful from beginning to end. And he had Barry Scheck, and again, I've mentioned this before too, so if you've heard how all of this turns out, just bear with me. Barry Scheck so brutalized, battered, beat, and thrashed LA criminologist Dennis Fung so badly for 8.5 days that when he got off the stand, when the prosecution's criminologist, the guy that collected all of the evidence, got off the stand, he shook hands with and hugged the defense lawyers. That's how much the defense made him their bitch. He was the prosecution's evidence collecting witness, the criminologist for Los Angeles, and he ends up shaking hands with and hugging the defense team when he got off the stand. Awesome. And then we'll watch a little bit of I guess what I want to do before we go to Barry Scheck is also watch a little bit of a documentary about F. Lee Bailey. So yeah, that's where we're going with the that's where we're going with the OJ Simpson trial for the next few weeks. Tomorrow we'll be just doing some rants. We'll rant about Courtney Clenny. We'll rant about Griner for fucking sure. We'll rant a bit about the Idaho case, maybe the LGBTQ murders. We'll just do some good old fashioned law rants. Hopefully we'll have some guests on to rant with me because it's more fun to rant with people. And as far as the Courtney Clenny OnlyFans murder goes, we're still waiting for her. Those of you that were saying that she was first and left, she was going to be first, but her lawyer is not there. So Law and Crime says they're still waiting for her attorney to get there, and they'll restart when the lawyer comes. So we'll watch that, and if it's too late, I'll just do this. I'll just do her bit tomorrow. But if say they come back within the next 30 minutes or so, then I'll stream it a few minutes delay. But count on the Courtney Clenny thing tomorrow. These bond hearings can go forever. Yeah, Courtney is twerking in court right now. Ew. That's not something we want to see. Wait, We had a super chat. There we are. Vince Clortho, thank you. This will be added to the drink fund. Deeply, deeply appreciated. Thank you for everyone that stopped in here. Any last comments? Get them now. We ended up with 428 likes. Thank you. And if you have friends or whatever that might like this type of thing, let them know. Share this video. Share it with all your contacts and friends. Let them come back and let's have this channel grow. Hit the like button on your way out. 432 likes currently. We've got 511 subscribers. So hit that subscribe button as well. We're good to go. And the Aaron Dean, other Texas shooting guy, his case will come up on Monday. I'll likely do my Maritime Monday, and then I'll go hang out with Andrew Branca for a while, who's going to be handling it. Maritime Monday, I haven't decided what we'll talk about yet, but I'll think of something. I always do. There's lots of things to talk about. And there we go. That'll take us into next week. Just want to thank everybody for being here. Mods, thank you. Thank you for helping me out. We're only going to do our little slightly over 2 hour, well, exactly 2.5 hours stream today. We're not going to be going for 8 hours like we have been during the trial of Juan David Ortiz, who is going to spend the rest of his life in jail. And our final super chat of the day, I believe, comes from Xcomer Triple Z. Thank you very much. Mr. Need No Sleep is sleepy. I'll be happy. I'll be thrilled to get to sleep here in the next hour or so. But like I said, if Courtney Clenny comes in and their stream restarts, we'll do that. If it doesn't happen in the next 30 minutes, we'll just cover it tomorrow. It'll give me something extra to rant at. There we go. Take care, everybody. Mods, thank you. People here in chat, thank you so much. We'll talk about the Halifax disaster. I don't know if we'll get around to the Halifax disaster this week, but it's coming. It's working its way up to the top of the list. Oh, and I do have another maritime thing to share with you next Monday. Kind of another little piece of show and tell. Those of you that have us on in the background while you go about your day, have us on for background noise while you're driving around, sitting in the office, cleaning house, whatever it is you do. Thank you for having us on. It really helps. And come back later when you get a free minute, hit the like button, leave a comment or two, at least 5 words, and let us know how you're doing. Until either later tomorrow night, later tonight for me, later today for all of you, or just tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel, Legal Vices, saying thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the super chats, all the normal chats, all the mods, all the people. Love y'all. I'm out. Enjoy your Legal Vices.